Welcome back to the Bourbon and BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 153, part 1. We are joined. I'm Steve Crane. We're joined tonight by Nate Hale at the table.
What's up?
What's up? And then also Sonny Conger. They
Hello.
Can't hear. Okay, this is audio. Also,
they can't hear the wave.
The podcast. So Sonny's joining us tonight. We are smoking the Alec Bradley Post Embargo for part 1, and we are drinking Nelson's Green Briar Tennessee whiskey. So we're going Tennessee style tonight instead of bourbon. Interested to try this. I had a little bit of a sample before the podcast. So before we get into that, though, I do want to thank our sponsors first and foremost. I do want to thank all of you at patreon.com/bourbonbs podcast. This is a way that you guys can contribute to the podcast and help us out on a monthly basis or one-time deal. $5, $10, or $25 you can throw at the Patreon page. And that way we've got some different shirts that are coming to you. I know a lot of guys have already had it. A lot of guys and girls have already gotten the shirts, which I love seeing them. If you guys have a shirt, make sure you post it on the Bourbon and BS community page on Facebook as well. But just check that out. If you have any questions, let us know. And we've got swag coming from Altidus and Josh Bentley there for you guys as well coming up this year. That's unnecessary. Oh, come on. Also, Tinder Box at Easton. We are going to be smoking the Post Embargo from Alec Bradley. That is from them. And thank you, Tinder Box at Easton in Columbus, Ohio. Check that out. And then the second cigar from Altidus, I do want to point out at Tinder Box at Easton while supplies last. We're smoking the Trinidad Espiritu Series number 1. There is a 5-pack available, and that is currently 25% off from our other sponsor, Tinder Box at Easton. And we can ship it if you want. If you're in the area, stop by, grab that, or grab just the individual ones that we have available at Tinder Box at Easton as well. So thank you, Altidus, for the support. I don't know why that's doing that.
Says the guy that's always telling everyone before
the video is down, man. I don't know. It's the ring, so there's intruders. And then also BS Cigar
Don't say that.
Company.
Sonny will get excited.
Also BS Cigar Company.
Good night tonight.
All right. BS Cigar Company. The gold and the silver is available. Check that out. We've got a shipment going to, where is it going? West Virginia today. Got another shipment going to over the border to Canada, which I'm not supposed to say probably, but it is. So if you guys are not local, want to check it out, we can definitely get some out to you as well. Just contact either the podcast, Tinder Box at Easton, or BS Cigar Company. And that's it. That's all. Episode 153. What are you guys doing? How are you guys doing?
Doing all right. I know Sonny had a good weekend watching Tampa Bay win.
Yes, we did.
It
was amazing. Right here in the garage, had a good time.
Yeah, the projector here.
The projector, which we'll most likely be watching on Super Bowl. FYI, just let you know, we'll be at your house then.
Thanks for the heads up that you're going to be at my house.
Yeah. It's always interesting. There's a difference between watching a playoff game with someone who just likes the sport and someone who's like a diehard fan of a team.
That's right.
Because that person's just going ape shit at every play, good, bad, or otherwise.
Yeah.
Just absolutely going nuts. And I'm like, thank God Sonny's sitting in front of me, not behind me.
It was an emotional game.
Emotional. It was. It was good.
An emotional
I
game.
still understand for those that didn't watch it, the Green Bay's call at the end.
To go for field goal with 2 minutes left.
That was not
down
good.
By 8.
That was not good. I'm sorry.
I don't care.
Well,
you're happy.
You don't care. I understand that. All right.
What about Aaron Rodgers when he was all that? What did he say about his administration? That they have to make better decisions now.
Yeah, and then he's going to take time to think about things. I don't know what that means.
I don't
they would be silly to let him go. They're probably going to give him more money. And it'll be
poopy pants.
Yeah, where else would be a better fit for him than where he's at?
Tampa.
Anywhere he can make more money. Yeah, Tom Brady can't last forever, right? Let's
he
go
should
with
be
another
second.
Old quarterback.
He's going to be behind Tom Brady now. And
exactly.
Let Winston have what is that? Help me.
Jameis Winston.
Yes, the Saints. He'll be starting the Saints next year now.
I think you're better off without Jameis.
Oh, please. The world's better off without Jameis.
All right.
Oh, ouch.
That's how I feel about it.
Well,
anybody else?
You can find out on the comment feed here. All right. So tonight, Nate, you brought the was it Nelson's Green Briar Tennessee whiskey? Is that right?
Yeah.
All right. So what are we drinking here? I know I heard of it because Tyler Jones from Espinosa brought it to the shop.
Yeah,
as a gift to Brian, the owner.
Yeah, he brought a bottle in for Brian, and Brian let those of us that were working, try some if we wanted to, and I thought it was a pretty decent taste to it.
Mhm.
And so the next time I was out at the liquor store, I actually saw it, and it was only $29.99 on the shelf. So I was like,
$29.99 in Ohio.
in Ohio, I was like, that's worth getting a bottle for, and figured it'd make a good podcast bottle. That was when I also bought the bottle of Allegiant that we had
Yeah, absolutely.
last week.
Yeah.
And then there's another Tennessee whiskey that I bought last week as well, just to have some options.
Buying all sorts of whiskey. I like it.
Well, it's for the podcast. So, so I thought it was pretty good. So I figured, at $30 a bottle, it's not a bad one to keep in the garage because some of our guests lately have been bringing bottles or sponsoring bottles for episodes. So we haven't had a dip into some of the reserves that we have, but
Wait, you have reserves?
well, now we have a reserve.
We do.
So between the choices that we had, I figured this one might go better with this cigar than the other option. So.
Why is that?
Because I think this whiskey's a little bit sweeter. The other bottle that we have on deck is the Old Forester 1910. And I think that's going to be a little richer, a little hotter than what this one is. And so knowing what I know about this cigar, I think that one may have overpowered this cigar. So I think this is going to be a little bit more balanced with this cigar.
Gotcha. And Sonny, the reason we're doing the Alec Bradley Post Embargo, this is one of your personal favorites. Is that correct?
Most definitely is.
Why is that? We'll get into it a little bit more. But
You
what
gave
do
me
you
my
like
first
about it?
one for free. That's why.
I like that. The first one's always free. The first one's always
That's a
free.
drug deal.
Hook them when they're young.
Wait a minute. You're calling me young?
I didn't call you young. Don't look at me. Don't look at me.
That hurts.
All right, I'm gonna share it up.
No,
here.
it's actually I'm a medium cigar smoker.
Mhm.
I don't like a really huge, heavy cigar. Obviously, it finishes very well. It's a little bit more on the I get more of a coffee,
Mhm.
right in the middle, if you will. Anybody getting coffee out of that?
I
Good, Nate.
I get more of like a nuttiness, almost like an almond
Hazel.
to it. Yeah, hazelnut would work.
Hang on, you're allergic to that.
He's allergic to nuts. You don't know it. You can sit there and say, "Oh yeah, it tastes like peanuts." He's like, "I'm glad I can't taste that."
No, I mean, I probably taste it. I don't know what it tastes like. I can't describe cigars as
Nuts.
nutty, but
That's right.
let's talk a little bit about the cigar here. Throw it up on the page there. So this one, it came out in, I think, 2015-ish by Alec Bradley, owned by Alan Rubin. This is before the Alec and Bradley lines were out. This is one. They had an original band on it, and then they modified it because it had originally two I think it was like ladies, and they thought it looked a little too cartoony. They were originally like shaking hands, and they had the Cuban flag and the American flag, the U.S.
Really?
flag.
Huh.
And that you see it now, you just have kind of the two flags, and they're kind of almost real close in the middle there.
Mm-hmm.
The concept behind this was actually when they were opening up the what was it, the not the embargo, but it was for the travel. They were lowering the restrictions or peeling back some of the restrictions during the tail end of the Obama administration. And so this was kind of something that Alec Bradley did to kind of go. They were tired of hearing. Alan Rubin will say like he's tired of hearing like the non-Cuban cigars. You know what I mean? When people are talking about cigars. So this is something that they were trying to say, and obviously that the embargo wasn't getting lifted, but it's like kind of this kind of peaceful transition possibly into the world of, the non-Cuban cigars, if
Kind
you
of
will.
feeling the waters a little bit.
Yeah, just kind of a tribute to what was going on. So that's where the story behind that goes. And then, like I said, the band, I love the band. They did a nice job with the revision with this, and just Alec Bradley Post Embargo. And like I said, it has a Cuban flag and an American flag kind of merging, and not merging, but getting close in the middle there. So that was kind of cool. But then with this, I mean, it's coming out of the Raíces Cubanas factory in Honduras. And it's a Honduran wrapper, and then it's got a double binder. One's Honduran, one's Nicaraguan, and then it has Honduran and Nicaraguan tobacco in there.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a good blend as far as that. I mean, we always talk about that. I'm typically kind of a Nicaraguan fan, but I also like Honduran, and Dominican. I like it all, like Cuban tobacco. But it is something that coming out of the Raíces Cubanas factory. I love that factory.
Yeah,
and that's been around, I think, since it's 1941 or something like that. So
Wow.
It's been around for a long time, and they do a lot of their work Alec Bradley does, if I'm not mistaken, primarily work through the Raíces Cubanas factory in Honduras, and then also the Plasencia. They work with the Plasencia family a lot. And so that's actually who we worked with recently to reblend the BS Gold. We worked through Alec Bradley and all their connections and their blenders and everything out with the Plasencia family out of Nicaragua. So good relationship with that family. Alec or Alan Rubin's been on the podcast, as has Alec Rubin. So we have not gotten Bradley on quite yet, but he has been drunk in my garage at one point too.
Who hasn't?
It's a good question.
And that's why he's never been back.
Poor guy.
I seriously thought, so we're not doing the Smoking 10 event, but there's a quick side story here with the Rubin family. Years ago, like probably about 4 or 5 years ago, we had the Q&A session at the Smoking 10 event here in Columbus, Ohio, which again, hopefully we'll do next year. But we had Alec had just started. He's the older son. He had just started traveling with the reps. And so he came to that event, a multi-vendor event, his first one. And I talked him into going up on stage with all the other who's as part of the Q&A session. So then Ryan Pontus, who's been on the podcast, he's the rep for Alec Bradley. He's sitting out in the audience, by the table, and they're up there on stage. I'm asking questions, and the other guys are kind of like not coaching him, but kind of like getting him involved. He's a little quiet at first, but he starts answering questions.
He was on that stage with some guys who've been in the industry for a long time and some big names.
Ricky Rodriguez, Nish Patel was up there, Espinosa. I forget who else was there that year. But anyways, so Ryan's phone rings, and it's Alan Rubin, the owner, the dad, and he's like, "Hey, just want to check in, see how Alec's doing." And he's like, "He's doing great. He's up on stage right now." And Alan's like, "Wait, what? He's on stage doing what?" And Ryan told me later, he's like, "I thought I was going to get fired." What were you going to say?
I thought Alan had texted.
He might have texted him.
He had texted Ryan, and then when he said, "Oh, he's doing great on stage," then Ryan Pontus' phone rings, and it's Alan Rubin. He's like, "Oh shit, I'm going to get fired." Hi,
Alan.
Hi, boss.
But we've worked it out since. And then there was another. We had another event, Smoking 10 event that Bradley was there. He did not go up on stage that year. But he did end up back in my old garage, actually, until about 3 a.m, and we killed a bottle of Bland's, I think. Yeah, it was a good night. I figured at this point, no other Rubin's going to ever come back to Columbus, Ohio. So we had Alan on the podcast during the lockdown, and we had a great episode with him. Shannon, you were on that episode, I believe, as well, remotely. That was a remote episode. It was a good one. Very good one. So, yeah. That's the kind of background of a little bit of Alec Bradley, and then also with this post embargo. I agree with you guys. I like this cigar a lot. It is one that I recommend typically to someone that is looking for a medium bodied cigar, something that's easy smoking, if you will.
You turned me on to this about a year ago? And
at least, yeah.
Yeah, at least a year ago. A couple things with that. I mean, it's just anybody's new to cigars like I always walked into the shop and, what do you got new for me, type of thing. Because I really wanted to expand my palate a little bit. And when you handed me this, man, it kind of sealed the deal for me. Alec Bradley is honestly one of the best out there, as Steve just told you. But this cigar itself, easy to smoke, doesn't have a horrible aftertaste by any means. It's good all the way through. And I've smoked it down to the nub before. Yeah, many a time.
It's like a soft box press. This is the Toro size. I agree. I got a little sweetness. So I agree with what you were saying, Nate, as far as what you thought might go with this Tennessee whiskey. It has this little sweetness on the tongue, a little salt, and then like through the retrohale, it's not much spice, but it's just a little bit, in my opinion.
Well, and I think that saltiness kind of plays on with the post embargo, because some of those Cuban brands will have kind of a saltiness because of their climate and their soil.
Yeah. And I was smoking, it was a gift from Bobby Crow, who's a part of the community page. What was it? Cohiba. I don't know. Small one. I forget which one it was, but it was a Cuban. And it going to this right after that, it actually flows really nicely.
Really?
Nice. Oh, yeah.
It smelled great coming in here.
Dave Merrick says, what's a retrohale? Retrohale is basically when you draw in the cigar into the mouth and then you kind of push it through the nasal cavity, but you don't inhale. So there's a technique. When you do that, you're going to get a different aspect of the flavor. You're going to get a little bit more, just like I always compare it to like when you are drinking wine. It's a different technique, but when you're drinking wine, I learned that years ago that one of the techniques to get the full flavor and aroma is that you slightly breathe in through the nose as you're taking a sip out of a wine glass, and it opens it up. It's almost like aerating
Truth.
as you're drinking it. So
Absolutely.
similar type thing where you're going to get different flavors. It all works together. The sense of smell and taste, it all works together really well. So that's something that, and it is a technique that not everyone can do.
Yeah.
It takes practice, sometimes choking.
And we dove into that a little bit more a few weeks ago when Miguel was on and we smoked the Mil Diaz, because I mentioned that on the palate with that cigar, there was no spice whatsoever. But on the retrohale through the nose, there was a ton of spice to it. And, that's part of the profile of that cigar.
Oh, absolutely.
And it speaks volumes to, when a company can make a cigar that does something like that has a completely different flavor through the nose as it does on the palate.
No, I agree. We did have a question from Mike, who's part of Pizza Cigar Network, I believe, PCN. What's your favorite pizza topping?
Pepperoni.
All right. Sonny?
Sausage.
Sauce. Very creative Americans here. Sausage. I like banana peppers as a little flair item on a pizza.
I like the Donato's Founder's Favorite.
Founder's Favorite's amazing.
So does he.
Why do you say that, Sonny? We were over at.
He destroyed an entire large.
It was only a large.
It was a cheat day.
It was not a cheat day.
It ended up being a cheat day. It's a bulking season.
I mean, literally, I was like, damn. I sat there and watched him inhale this thing, and it was impressive.
No, I ate it in pieces.
Calzone style.
I did not. It was delicious. Yeah. It was delicious. I regretted it.
No, you didn't.
The next day.
Maybe.
No, I did. I definitely did. It was rough. But yeah, there you go. That's I've got some bacon and jalapeno out there, onions and mushrooms. That's good. But yeah, how about this whiskey? Give me a little bit of knowledge, if you will, Nate, of what you know on this whiskey. Do you have any story on this?
Well, I mean,
Tennessee.
I didn't look up a lot of notes about it beforehand because I thought you might tell a story with your sultry voice.
I can tell a story.
But no, I mean, so
just read the back.
So the original founder, he was the oldest of 6 kids born in Providence in northern Germany.
Really?
I love how he says that he didn't really look this up much, and that's how he starts off the top of his head.
Pull that out of
that. And then at one point when he was 17, he actually settled in Cincinnati.
Okay. What else don't you know about this? Or is that as far as you got?
That's about
all right.
It's eye color.
And then Nelson Greenbrier Distillery also makes Bell Mead.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
really?
Yeah, they distill Bell Mead.
So that's Nashville.
Yeah.
All right.
How'd you know that?
Their website.
Yeah, you looked it up in a book.
I'm sitting between knowledge.
So the front of this it's very nice label. I mean, this is kind of a cool, older looking label. It's got some texture to it, a lot of like that, not gold, but like almost like a copper bronze leaf to it, if you will. And it is 45.5%. And the back of the label, for those that haven't had this, it says, when a great grandfather, Charles Nelson, introduced Nelson's Greenbrier Tennessee whiskey to the public in 1860, he could never have imagined how popular his creation would become, or that his process would set the standard by which all future Tennessee whiskeys were judged. With our revival of Nelson's Greenbrier Tennessee whiskey, we've painstakingly recreated the family recipe, the finest ingredients filtered through a mellowing bed of sugar maple charcoal.
Yep.
And aged a minimum of 2 years in new charred oak barrels. We believe it's time the 21st century got to know the original Tennessee whiskey, and we hope you'll agree it was worth the wait. Welcome back.
And that charcoal filtering is what makes it a Tennessee whiskey.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, I remember listening to another podcast that had Jeff Arnett on it. He's the master distiller at Jack Daniels.
Mm-hmm.
And anyone who really knows their history with bourbon knows how regulated and how many specific things there are that you have to follow in order for it to be bourbon.
Mm-hmm.
Well, one of the things that separates Tennessee whiskey is that charcoal mellowing process that charcoal filtering that they do. But there's no set standard as to how much filtering, like how much charcoal has to be used to filter it. So like literally you could sit there and have a giant vat of whiskey and throw in a single little piece of charcoal and now it's all Tennessee whiskey.
Huh.
It's all charcoal
So
filtered.
Ian Anderson out there, he says that's called the Lincoln County process. Ian, if you could throw a little bit more information on that up there, because I'm not familiar with that term, but I did throw it up there on the board there. So if you could give us a little bit more in the comments. And he says it filters through 13.5 feet of sugar maple charcoal.
That's
Wow.
that's what they do for Jack Daniels.
Okay.
That's how much charcoal they use, but there's no set standard across the business for Tennessee whiskey.
Okay, just for their blend, everybody's gonna have a different type of
Yes.
charcoal.
Like,
whatever.
so if Jack Daniels uses 13 feet, another company could use
10,
5
12,
feet.
Who knows, right?
Or like I said, they could sit there and just throw a pebble-sized piece of charcoal into the vat.
As
Tennessee
long as it's
now.
in there.
It's
Yeah, that's it. As long as it's in there.
That's the classification.
Yep.
Okay. So what do you guys think of this? It is sweet, like you said.
Yeah.
Well, I drank my first one, obviously, with you guys. Neat. A little bit different taste when you throw the ice. I like ice. So
You're a rocks guy.
I am a rocks guy.
Always a rocks guy.
Always a rocks guy. So I'm a big fan of Irish whiskeys as well. So Tennessee whiskey to me, and any type of Kentucky, Tennessee, whatever, you're going to get that little bit of that burn, right? So that's kind of a characteristic for some of it.
Mhm.
I don't get it with this one.
You don't get burned.
None with the
When
ice.
it was neat?
No, with the ice.
Oh,
when
with
you
the
put it
ice,
on the
with the
rocks, it really, I mean, obviously it's going to cut it a little bit, but
Yeah.
it really mellows it out.
Mhm.
The first neat was a lot with honey. You get more of that sweet texture up front.
This is what, 91 proof?
Yes.
It is.
Yes. 45.5.
45.5. So with the rocks, I got a lot more, I want to say, of a floral
Mhm.
than I did a sweetness.
Okay. So, because you call it burn, but I kind of get it with what you're talking about with it being
Mhm.
neat. It's not quite a burn per se, but it does have a little bit of like spice, cinnamon.
See, to me,
Yeah, that's right.
this is almost like an apple pie. Like I get apple notes, I get some sugar, and then that little bit of
I gotta
cinnamon.
try your apple pie, man. Jeez, it'll
Little bit of
get you drunk.
A little lemon.
And then
right now.
that little bit of cinnamon on the back end.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, food flavors,
But
which I
it's-
like.
Yeah, but it's not overly sweet like an apple pie would be. It just
No.
it has the notes of apple. It has some notes of some like some brown sugar to it.
Should call
and-
Tracy about the apple pie.
I don't know where you're going with that.
Don't. Oh. No.
Tracy, if you're listening, this should get interesting.
I'm in
I'd
trouble
stay
now. That
tuned.
was messed up. I'm
It's a
getting home,
second
getting
glass.
a black eye.
Yeah, well.
Oh, well, happens.
Yeah, so this is interesting. I like the Bell Mead. I had my first glass of Bell Mead actually in Nashville. Just a side story. We were flying to Boston area, and we stopped at like the layover was in Nashville, and I had heard about Bell Mead. I hadn't had it yet. Went in one of the airport bars during the layover, as one does, and it was about 9:30 in the morning. So I got a Stella, and I said, what do you have? Like, I normally, like at the airports, tradition is Jameson. But I said, he's like, we want to try something local. And I said, yeah. He's like, how about Bell Mead? And I said, I've heard of that, but I haven't had it yet. And he's like, yeah, it's done right here in Nashville. And if you guys ever get a chance to have a layover somewhere on the kind of eastern part, do Nashville if you have an option, because about 9:45, this lady's walking in this bar with a guitar and getting ready to set up to play music. So here we are. And I'm like eating like breakfast food with a Stella and with a Bell Mead whiskey. And this lady would be like a local bar Friday night act, because you're in Nashville. I mean, it's nuts.
Tons of talent.
Oh, tons of talent. So she's walking in. It's like, I think she started at like 10 a.m. And so this is 10 a.m. on whatever, like a Friday morning or something like that. And we got live music. I got a local whiskey and a beer and some breakfast food. It was definitely one of my favorite layovers.
Sounds amazing.
It wasn't bad. Not bad for a morning, let alone like a Friday night.
Yeah, it sounds great.
So yeah, check that out.
Until people are booking trips just to fly through Nashville now.
Seriously, I could have hung out there like 4-hour layover and be like, cool. Just push me towards my terminal when I'm done here, though, because I can't find it.
I hate layovers in big airports.
Really?
Yeah.
Man.
Last time I had a layover, I was in O'Hare, and I had about a 3.5 hour.
It's a pain in the ass anyway.
I had like a 3.5 hour layover.
Yeah.
and I was with my grandmother. I was traveling with her.
What's she drink?
No, whatever they had at McDonald's that was right next to the terminal.
Coffee.
Although they say, McDonald's Fountain Coca-Cola Classic is different than everywhere else. So
Put more sugar in it.
there you go. I see the problem with the long layovers for me, just again, while we're on this topic of nothing, I will say that it's expensive
Yeah.
because, yeah, you have 2, 3, or however many drinks it takes for the 3-hour layover. And then you get your bill and you're like, I just spent $80 at an airport bar
on $20 worth of whiskey.
but it's usually a good
So
time.
you're saying don't buy around there?
Don't buy around
Don't
for
buy
sure.
around.
No, but yeah,
Hotel
if
bar.
you're hanging out, yeah, go back and
Hotel bars,
forth.
okay.
Hotel bars sometimes. I don't know. But I do like this whiskey, guys. Check it out. You
It
said
is good.
$29.99, which is cheaper than the Belle Meade where it's coming out of. Which I think Belle Meade is $39.99 here in Ohio. I don't know what it is where you guys are watching, but it's definitely worth checking out in my opinion.
Definitely impressed with it for 29. I think it's still
The presentation's good. The whiskey's good. It's got a lighter color, I'd say.
Mhm.
If you guys can see
does.
that on there. What about that?
Well, and they do say it aged for at least 2 years, so
It's
it's
a
not
lighter
it's
caramel.
not spending a whole lot of time in the barrel,
Right.
so it's not going to pick up some of those darker caramel colors from the barrel.
And I don't want I got to give him a shout out because I just saw he went live. I got to text Dino and say stop doing it on Wednesday nights. But Whiskey Business is another podcast that's live right now. Check them out afterwards if you guys are looking for it.
Dino used to do it on Monday.
I know.
God damn it, Dino.
So that being said, I think this is the time where we've talked about the whiskey, we've talked about the cigar. Part 2 is going to be rolling through changes. But before we get to that, I do want to talk about the ratings. So, Sonny, you've watched the podcast here live and also remotely. This is the part where we do kind of best is 10, and you rate the drink, the whiskey, the cigar, and the pairing.
whiskey, cigar, and pairing.
So 10 out of 10, best out of 10, or best is 10, and you do 1, 2, and then the pairing.
I'm going to give the whiskey an actual 8.
Okay.
I actually like it. I mean, I'm not a big, like I said before, huge Tennessee type, whatever, but I would absolutely drink this. I'm drinking it now because it's free. But
What's your
I'm kidding.
typical drink of choice?
I love Jameson Black Barrel. I love all Jameson. Actually, it's Irish thing, so you got to be Irish, right? But
You don't have to be Irish to drink it. I can tell you that right now.
you got to be right. You don't?
You
It
know
does
that's-
help. It does help.
You
So-
liking Jameson might be a reason why. You
No,
like
Irish
this as
whiskeys I
much.
like. I do. I mean, obviously, they're the copper pot type stills, a little bit different taste. You're going to get into things, but with the barrels, you're going to get, like he said, you're going to get that huge oak, a lot of flavors coming forward.
Mhm.
You're going to get a lot of different color into it as well. And honestly, again, neat to on the rocks was a huge difference, and it was enjoyable for both.
Yeah.
It's going to definitely
So
be
8 out of 10 for the whiskey.
Obviously, I'm going to go for 10 for my cigar.
You're at 10 out of 10 on the
It's my
Post
favorite cigar on
Embargo.
the planet. Why would I not say that, right? So it's perfect. With the pairing, I mean, honestly, it's a good 9.5. I mean, I think Nate pretty much knocked it on the nail, is that it really complements itself, it's going to have that sweet to, I want to say a little bit bitter, kind of, for me, it's bitter, a little
The
bit.
cigar
Yeah.
Okay.
You get a little bit of bitter for me, but
on its own or tonight with the pairing? You get more bitterness, or is it just you're used to that with the cigar?
I get more with this one.
Okay. That's what I was going to say too.
Absolutely.
I agree with you.
Yeah. I get a little bit more bitterness to it, but I enjoy it.
Mhm.
It's a good balance. Again, I mean, I'm going to smoke that regardless, but I would definitely have it with this
Yeah.
anywhere else. But again, it's a great drink. I mean, for $29, hell, man, to me, it's a good deal for that whiskey. It's great. I'll absolutely probably go put it in my arsenal somewhere.
There you go. There you go.
For
How
sure.
about you, Nate?
What's this cigar run?
For this size,
$10.95.
I was going to say, yeah, MSRP is probably about $9.95, and then on our shelf it's about $10.95 with tobacco tax.
On the cigar, I'm at about a 7.5. I like the cigar. It's
Thanks for
enjoyable.
joining us, Nate.
I like the cigar. It's enjoyable. It's
We'll
not
call him the
necessarily
Russian judge from the 80s.
Yelling.
it's not necessarily one that I always find myself going back to frequently.
Mhm.
Every now and then I do go back to it and smoke it again because it is a good medium bodied smoke. It has a good flavor to it. The ash is a little bit light and flakes off. And I like a cigar that tends to hold ash a little bit more.
Why is that?
Well, because I
His
hate
preference.
because I hate sitting there smoking a cigar and it like a 1/4 inch ash just falls right on my shirt. Like to me, it's how tight the cigar is packed and how tight it's rolled. And this one, it just kind of flakes off a little bit, but it doesn't burn fast like a loose cigar would.
Great.
So, I mean, it's an enjoyable flavor.
Yeah.
There's nothing necessarily that stands out that wow factor for me with a cigar, but it's just a good kind of everyday cigar.
What type of body cigar do you like?
I'm typically medium to full. There are a couple medium body cigars that I'll keep going back to, like the BS Gold, the CLE Corojo. Those are a couple medium body cigars that I smoke repeatedly. Every now and then I'll do something fuller body, but that's more towards like the end of the night after I've eaten, something like that.
Yeah, gonna need it.
Frame of reference, this morning, my first cigar was the Alec Bradley Magic Toast.
That's a heavier smoke.
It's very heavy cigar.
Shannon's smoking the
Shannon's
chunk right now.
There you go.
I've
In the
smoked
morning, it's a little stout.
Did you have coffee with it?
I've smoked the
Just
Magic.
a cigar and water.
Like I
Hardcore.
smoked the Magic Toast in a Toro, and I was like, it's a pretty good smoke. And then I smoked it in the chunk, which is that 4x60.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, does that pack some power to it in that size? Holy cow! A lot of flavor, and it punches you in the mouth. Yeah, I mean, the Post Embargo is a good smoke. I mean, 7.5. I mean, from the way I look at cigars, I mean that's a good cigar.
Mm-hmm.
The whiskey, being a $30 bottle of whiskey, and how pleasant this is and the flavors, I'm like a 8.5 on the whiskey.
Okay.
Pairing, I think they both complement each other. I'm at 9 on the pairing.
Agreed.
I think they do go well together, and they bring out and complement each other very nicely.
Nice. Yeah, for me, the whiskey. So Nelson's Greenbrier, Tennessee whiskey. I'd give it. Again, I always bring in price typically when I'm talking about it. As far as $29.99 for the bottle, you're in some like everyday price bottles there at just under $30. Any more in the bourbon market, as many of you know that are big bourbon drinkers, it's tough to find a $30 bottle anymore, especially newer ones. You know what I mean? It's just that they're 35, 40, 50 bucks. I mean,
Inflation, man.
Inflation and I think popularity. So, I mean, any more with the Tennessee, I mean, this is, it says at least 2 years. So, I mean, it's not the most aged bottle necessarily, but I mean, I'd give it an 8.
It doesn't have that young taste to it.
No, it doesn't. And so, yeah, I give it an 8. It's a solid pickup for anyone out there that's looking for something new. If you guys want to try something, take a switch off of bourbon, or if you're doing Irish, I think this is something that kind of hits if like Sonny likes Irish whiskeys typically. I think that's why you like this.
Yeah,
is
absolutely.
that it's not the typical bourbon flavor,
It's
not
a little sweeter.
So it's almost like a hybrid or cross between like what I would consider a classic bourbon.
It's a great in between.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it's kind of a
Absolutely.
transition. So if you like either side, I think this would be something for you to try something different. And I give that an 8. The cigar, I give this cigar, for all intents and purposes, for a $10 cigar, I would give it a 9. This one, if you're looking for a medium body cigar with a lot of flavor, this is definitely a good choice. It's not going to wow you. It doesn't like go to any, like if you're looking at like a flavor wheel or whatever, it doesn't go full blown spice. It doesn't go full blown,
Very true.
leather or any of the, like you guys are talking about nuttiness.
Mhm.
It's kind of just a well balanced. I would kind of see it not like the wheel wouldn't be spiking in one direction, right? To a certain flavor on the wheel. It would kind of be more of a gradual thing because there's a lot of balance to the cigar, which I like.
Mhm.
And you can get, kind of look at the metaphor, the Post Embargo. I think there's that kind of thing where they're looking for the balance between the typical non-Cuban and Cuban cigar, like Nate was talking about earlier.
Yeah.
Which I think that they hit it out of the park with that. The pairing, I'm going to give an 8, and this is why, because I like the whiskey. I think before the podcast when I tried the sample, I like the cigar because I've smoked it before. But when Sonny was talking about that a little bit of that bitterness coming out, that's why I would rate it an 8. It's still a good pairing. I mean, if this is what you're going with for the night or for the afternoon, or if you're me at an airport, morning, 10 a.m., 9 a.m., whatever, don't judge.
Hey.
But I would say this is a good one. But I do think that it complements well. The whiskey stands up with that sweetness, but it does actually make maybe because of the sweetness in the whiskey, it makes the cigar a little, and I'm talking a tad more. It's not going to be like really bitter.
It's not overpowering.
But it kind of like on my palate, it's not dry. It's just a little bit of that bitterness.
I think that may be because the charcoal filtering.
Could be.
Because that charcoal filtering,
Good point.
sometimes you might get like a little bit of a smokiness to it, to a Tennessee whiskey that does that. And so that may be accenting, some of the burn notes from the cigar.
The burnt
tobacco. Like it burning. Yeah. So that's what gives it that bitterness.
Yeah, that could be.
You know what? I think you're money on that.
But again, I think it's a good
Thanks,
pairing
man.
for sure.
That was good. That was good. I like it.
You guys have anything else on the cigar or the whiskey?
No, I think I'm actually going to probably go buy one tomorrow.
One of each.
Yeah. I actually got one.
Good.
There you go.
Yesterday.
That's right.
By the way, the Tinder Box has these in stock all the time.
Are they running specials on these right now? Or?
No specials on that. That's what I was going to talk about here at the end here. We'll go over the sponsors one more time for part one. So I do want to thank you guys for tuning in for part one. If you guys are listening to the live feed, we do it live on Facebook Live and YouTube Live every Wednesday night around 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So check that out. The Facebook is where you're going to be part of the conversation because that's what we monitor as far as the feed every Wednesday night. So that's a way for you guys to contribute. Also, another way for you guys to contribute is financially, which helps us out. Keep doing this. Again, episode 153. This is something that keeps everything kind of going. As far as the StreamYard program that we use to broadcast this, to posting the audio and everything else. But Patreon.com/bourbonandbs podcast. Check that out. I am going to show maybe the next, I'm going to throw a vote out there coming up here shortly on the community page on what the next color shirt's going to be. But yeah, patreon.com/bourbonbs podcast. You guys can check that out. And it's $5 tier, $10 tier, $25 tier, or you can just do one-time contribution and then cancel it, whatever you guys want to do. If you have any questions, go ahead and contact me at any of the social media as well, or on the Bourbon and BS community page.
Are the BS sweatshirts going to be coming out soon?
So that is the next part. So Tinder Box at Easton, thank you very much for the Alec Bradley Post Embargo. Right now at Tinder Box, we got 2 T-shirts available for pre-order. And one of them says, when the world hands you some BS, light it up. It's kind of a black and gold type of a color scheme. There's also a red and a silver with the BS logo on the front, and that says focus on the silver lining underneath that.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's
I love
awesome.
it. I love it. I kind of have a thing for the focus thing. And then those are both $25 plus tax, and we can ship it out to you as well. And then the blue sweatshirt I have on tonight is the BS. It's Nicaraguan colors because everything from the BS Cigar Company, which is another sponsor of ours, is all Nicaraguan tobacco. So that is available, $40 plus tax. This is now through the end of the month, January, pre-order, and then you'll get delivery towards the end of February. So we've got a lot of good response on that at Tinder Box at Easton. So check that out. Altadis USA, that's the next one. The Trinidad Espiritu, series number 1. Right now, that is available at the Tinder Box in a 5-pack. So there's 5 different Vitolas, or basically different sizes and shapes. This is available. I think it's $52.95, but it's 25% off now until the next podcast. So check that out if you're in the area, or go ahead and call us, and we can try to put together a package for you. Or if you want to order a T-shirt through the Tinder Box or the sweatshirt and do this, we can all get it together for you at the end of February as well. Yeah, that's it.
So you're able to ship anywhere?
Pretty much. Internationally is tough. It depends on the customs.
Awesome.
I'll be shipping some apparel to Canada next week.
It's great.
Cigars. Guys, thank you.
They like hoodies up there.
They do like
They
hoodies.
need them.
Guys, thank you very much. If you guys, like I said, if you're live right now, stay tuned for part 2. If you guys are listening to the audio, make sure you hit 153.2, which is going to be rolling with changes. Cheers. Happy
Cheers.
Whiskey Wednesday. Sonny,
Hello.
thanks for joining us.
Hello, gentlemen.
Enjoy your week, guys. All right, now that we're on intermission here,
I gotta pee.
and go ahead.
No,
Not
please do.
here.
When
No, you
the
can go while we're
Too
in
late.
intermission.
I'm good.
So as you can see here, we did kind of an inverse one where it's going to be a dark with a light print. Oh, look at this. You got. Thank you. So you got the light gray as the original. So this next round, we're going to do either this one, and I'll post it on the community page and the podcast page. There's this. I have a green with black. I have a blue with black as well. So the Patty's Day one is also a popular choice for some. So might actually do a little bit of both, but I got to order them in advance and get it taken care of. So check that out. This has got pour one more, light up another. We'll figure this out together. And on the back is the podcast logo.
I like that one.
It's awesome.
I like that one.
Yeah.
Look nice in it too.
Well, thanks. Thanks. It means a lot. It means a lot. Ian says, I'll be good with the first shirt. Yours is coming. I'm ordering 2 for you this next time. 3X.
It is intermission right now.
Yeah, go
so
ahead.
if you need to pee, go. Steve, on the Espiritu,
Yes.
when it first came out, did it?
Lighter drop.
Nice job, Kyle. When it first came out, did it have on the bottom of that secondary band series number 1, or are they just now putting that because the number 2 blend?
No, so the Trinidad, we can talk about that here as well on the live part for part 2. But the Espiritu series number 1, that was always part of the plan.
Okay.
So this is, I believe, AJ Fernandez is making this. This is, I believe, all Nicaraguan. I did have the opportunity to smoke series number 2, which is going to be coming out February, I think, mid-February. And that is going to be a Brazilian wrapper with it's basically Brazilian and Nicaraguan tobacco. So it's a Brazilian wrapper, I think Nicaraguan binder, and then Brazilian and Nicaraguan filler combo.
Nice.
It is a totally different cigar. I wouldn't compare the two. They're both very good. I thought the Brazilian series number 2 is a fuller cigar, a little more spice to it. So when that comes out, we'll see if we can get Josh Bentley to come on either in the garage again or remotely and get him involved as well.
So I know back in the day, like one of your go-to cigars was the CAO Brasilia.
It was.
That was a smoke that you really enjoyed. How does
different cigar.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know since they were both using Brazilian wrapper and tobacco.
Yeah, I got to look up the CAO Brasilia again. I don't think they use Brazilian in the filler. I don't think
they did, but the wrapper.
But it's kind of, I think, a similar body.
Yeah. I didn't know because I knew you had a history with that cigar, so I didn't know if in your mind you were comparing the two while you were smoking the number 2 blend.
No, I wasn't. And I think more typically, so the question I was asked a lot with the series number 1, like, well, is it better or worse, or how does it compare with the first one? And it's
just completely different.
Yeah, it's a different cigar.
Apples and oranges. They're both cigars, but that's about it. that's where the commonality.
Very good. Both of them are good.
All right.
So as we get started, we're waiting on Sonny to come back. If you guys have any feedback and you're listening live right now, make sure you join the conversation on the Facebook Live feed and share it. I've already shared it to a lot of different pages, including the Bourbon and BS community page. So check that out as well. If you guys want to join that, I will approve pretty much anyone unless you're trying to sell secondary products.
Yep,
and
that's a no-no.
Yeah, I try to do that. So try to filter that out.
I think with the topic, I'm sure the guys in the garage, knowing some of their stories, and then also Ian out there with some of the stuff he's gone through.
Yeah.
Shan's like, I don't know what you're talking about.
Rolling with change.
And then in about 20 minutes, Shan's going to get on that mic, I bet.
Good chance. If you guys are listening live while we're waiting to get started for part 2, are you guys smoking, drinking? What are you guys enjoying tonight? Is it warmer where you are? Like, obviously we got the heaters. Hopefully that one won't go out. I'm trying to wait for that propane tank to go out.
You've been saying that for a while. You've been using that thing.
She's about done. She's about done.
You had that thing going all day on Sunday trying to burn it up before tonight.
I will recommend anyone that has a garage that you don't mind smoking in to get a projector and at least 100-inch screen so that you can enjoy football, movies, everything else. We were actually talking about,
and a friend to help you install it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And get yourself a Nate Hale.
Everybody needs an
Amazon.com. Nate Hale, look it up. What we're looking forward to, Sonny and I were talking about it. We are definitely going to be doing a feature presentation of the new Kong and Godzilla movie,
which looks awesome.
The last time we did the latest Godzilla movie out here, I had that surround sound turned up that it was like shaking some stuff.
The one that came out a couple of years ago?
Yeah.
I just watched that one over the weekend.
Yeah. Probably not as loud as I did. I was pushing the limits.
Well, yeah, when you do Southie, I mean, you get neighbors all around the cul-de-sac.
Awesome.
Yeah.
We didn't do that this year. We didn't do
No, we didn't do it this year. Although I know last year one of the movies we were watching was right after a particular scene that the pastor in the neighborhood all of a sudden walked by like, oh, good thing you didn't show up 5 minutes earlier.
Go fuck yourself.
No, it was actually the strip club scene in the town.
Best scene ever.
Yeah. All right, you guys ready for part 2? Guys, if you're listening, like I said, please share it, like it, subscribe, join the community page. And then also, if you can, subscribe to iTunes and Spotify, iHeartRadio. That helps everything kind of get out there and get more people involved as well and enjoying this. So without further ado, let's get those back.
Those heaters kicked up.
Not bad, right? No, that's not right. This is Sonny.
And we are? Hi, Brian. Nice to meet you, sir.
Got another studio audience here, member here. All right, so welcome back to the Bourbon BS podcast, everyone. This is episode 153, part 2, Beyond the BS. Tonight, we're going to be talking about rolling with changes. I think it's relevant with what we've been going through in the world, as always, with 2020, now 2021. But also, we're talking about life and things that you can and cannot control. I'm still smoking. I think everyone else is. This post embargo from Alec Bradley is a nice slow burn as well. I know you were talking about construction on that, Nate, but I will say it does burn nice and slow.
I said that too.
Yeah. But I'm saying
it's got like a flaky ash, but yes, it does burn well.
Could be smoker operator error, but we also are continuing drinking from the bottle of the Nelson's Green Briar Tennessee whiskey. Check that out on part 1. If you guys are just clicking on part 2 on the audio, or if you're just tuning in, part 1, we reviewed that bottle as well as the post embargo. So thank you, Tinder Box at Easton, for the Alec Bradley Post Embargo, and also Altadis USA for the Trinidad Espiritu Series number 1. Again, just to throw that out there right now through the end of next week on Wednesday, the podcast, we have the 5-pack. There's 5 different Vitolas, and this is going to be, so you have like basically, you have a Robusto, a Toro, Torpedo, you have a double Toro 6x60, and also a Lancero. So that's going to be something that you guys can take advantage of. Normally it's $52.95, it's 25% off now through next podcast on Wednesday.
Pass this around.
Look, you can see. All right.
Being a nice day.
I know you are. They're just being lazy. So also be a cigar company. Sonny's just walking around hosting the place here. I love that. Make yourself at home, Sonny.
It's not his bottle.
He basically he lives here part-time sometimes now too. Last podcast, actually, he poked his head and he texted me while we were doing the podcast. He's like, hey, I made enchiladas, was it?
No, I made you tacos.
Tacos that night.
God damn, I made you dinner, man.
I had 2 meals from you in the fridge that I ate, but he just literally came over and just dropped it off as we're doing the podcast. So yeah.
I had COVID. I don't want to come in.
Oh my gosh. But thank you, BS Cigar Company. We have the gold and silver available. We want to make sure that you guys check that out as well. They're selling like crazy, which we appreciate the support as well. BS Cigar Company. The gold is coming from Plasencia, and the silver is coming from Espinosa, Lazona. So check those out as well. And then patreon.com/BourbonBS podcast. You too can contribute to this. We appreciate it. I am wearing one of the prototypes for the next round of t-shirts that go to Patreon members. And Nate is seductively showing off the originally.
No, I'm not.
So check that out, please. And also share and enjoy the podcast. So tonight on part 2, we're going to be doing, like I said, rolling with changes. This came up because Sonny's been on, and one of the things that I enjoy about having Sonny around when we're talking about stuff, he has a lot of stories over the years, both personal and work.
Depends how drunk I am.
It does actually. He's not lying on that one. And I always enjoy, Sonny, I always enjoy introducing you to new friends, like new friends of mine that are new to you. And again, especially if you're drinking.
I think it was about a year ago was the first time I met Sonny.
And you learned a lot.
Even more since.
But I mean,
is this positive? Because right now
it is positive.
I'm feeling a little vulnerable.
But here, I'll make you even more on the spotlight. There you go, on the screen there, just wonderful. Right there. Special guest, Sonny Conger.
How are you, sir?
So with that being said, this conversation can be about, I want to learn a little bit more about Sonny, because I think that everyone can learn a lot from some of the experiences. And I know you have a good way of relating to a lot of situations. It can be about what we're going through right now, still with the transition, obviously, not only in politics, but also just coming out. And I don't want to get political, I'm saying, but coming out of this time of 2020 going into 2021 and how it has been somewhat of a transition. But if you remember back to like March, April, it was like, oh, we got a few months of this, we'll be all right. And then it's like by 2021, we'll be good. And here we are, almost through the first month of 2021. Not so much.
We need a lot more whiskey.
Yeah.
I got another bottle.
All right.
But and also just things that you can and cannot control. I mean, when things come up in life and they're, I was talking with a neighbor, and I'm going to introduce this aspect of it. He was talking about something that I thought was very cool. So I'm going to introduce this topic right now, and you guys can kind of use it as we're talking, if you will. But the it's not a metaphor, but the example, the conversation we were having was, so when something happens and you have a child, you want to listen to this, when you have like a child and they throw a temper tantrum, okay, because things aren't going their way necessarily, or something happens that they weren't expecting, they hurt themselves, they trip, they fall, whatever it might be. You know what I mean? It's like when I don't have any kids, but it's like something that like on niece and nephew or whatever, when they fell down, it's like if you paid more attention to them, the temper tantrum or the show lasts a lot longer. If you ignored them, it doesn't, right? But something that Chris, my neighbor on the old street, he said there are three factors that can be looked at. And I think this also applies. The reason I'm bringing this up is because as he and I were talking about this, I was like, this applies to everything. But there's three factors. One, the frequency. How often do these situations come up in your life, right? Whether you can control them or not. Then it's the intensity of the reaction. Okay? So the frequency, how often are you running into this? That's one thing to think about. Then you have the intensity as number two. How intense is the reaction or the temper tantrum, if you will, in that scenario? And then the third is the duration. Okay? So that's kind of how I wanted to frame this conversation when it comes to personal, business, and otherwise. And then we can also talk about, if you guys want, 2020, 2021. But so you have the frequency, you have the intensity, and the duration, because I think those are three factors of a reaction to a change, whether you see it coming or not. Does that make sense?
It does.
Okay. So with that being said, I mean, Sonny, give a little bit, if you could, since you're the guest, as it says there on the screen, you're the special guest.
So, right?
It says so it has to be true. I just put it on there. But tell us a little bit about your background, like business.
Oh, man. Which part?
Come on.
So I grew up in St. Louis, born and raised in St. Louis. Moved to Florida, lived there for numerous years. I got into the restaurant industry very young. I mean, I was in St. Louis busting tables at I don't want to say questionable because the family is still alive, but a place where a lot of meetings happened. I was a busboy, so I'd leave there with $200 or $300.
White tablecloths.
It was very white tablecloth.
There you go.
And so it was a good time. So we lived in a very small place in a city. I mean, I'm not going to bash East St. Louis by any means because it was still home to me. But later on in my teen years, whatever the case was, I had a lot of family members and things of that nature. I call them family members and if anybody knows me, my friends are my family also. So I had a lot of family members who took care of me growing up and really looked out for me. It was really, really great times. Some weren't very great times, but whatever the case is.
You're good.
Are you good?
I'm
So-
always good.
Moving along, I mean, we had a 1-bedroom apartment in St. Louis. It was myself, my sister, my mother, and it was rough, man, but it was good.
Yeah.
It was fine. And East St. Louis then wasn't East St. Louis it is today. It isn't. I mean, it really wasn't. It was a good time. I mean, I had a lot of great friends I still talk to in St. Louis and things of that nature. But from that point on, I moved to Florida when I got to be an adult, which was right around never. So I moved
Still
to
in progress.
Still in
Yeah.
progress.
What age did you move to Florida?
I was shit, man. I remember 20. I was 20 years old when I moved to Florida. I took a bus down there. I had about $15 in my pocket.
Solid plan.
Yeah, it was a solid plan, man. Shit. So I went down there, worked a labor pool. I mean, forever. Got $40-$50 a day, did whatever, jumped in restaurants, right? First restaurant job I ever had. I'm not going to say the company name because it's still out there. I got a lot of friends that are still doing this, so I don't want to incriminate anybody. But
It was a substantial operation, though.
It was a huge
Yeah.
Actually, it was a very small operation, and it became very huge.
Yeah.
I was very blessed by having really patient people in my life. And I say that with all respects, because I was not somebody that most people are patient with. I mean, most of my friends know me today as an adult. It was terrible.
Again.
Work in progress.
Dick. So
Mm-hmm.
the company I got into was a seafood restaurant in Florida. So we had like 4 restaurants, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I started in the kitchen, right? And I started washing tables or busting tables, washing dishes. You know, like anybody else in the restaurant industry, when you first start, you know, you're starting in the kitchen. I worked out front, went through the bars, you know, went through, you know, serving, whatever the case was, opened up a few restaurants and got really good at what I did. The CEO, he's passed now, but his name was John Ritchie.
Well, now you're giving away.
I'm giving him away because he's an amazing man.
All right.
He has a son, also John Ritchie Jr., but great people. I mean, this guy, he was a big Sicilian, 2 lazy eyes. You knew when you messed up, right? Because he never rose. Yeah, he never rose his voice, but he'd just give you this. And he's a 6'7" guy. He wasn't a small fella by any means, right? So then I was about 165 pounds, soaking wet. I show up there, I'm just like this, you know, I'm getting ready to pee myself, going, fuck, I'm going to die. He looked at me, put his hand on my shoulder and go, hey, did you learn from that? I'm like, which part and what did I do? You know, there's many things that I knew I did wrong.
Yeah.
I was waiting for somebody to just, I'm like, what? He's like, yeah, I know it's going to probably something else going to come out, but did you learn from this today? I'm like, yeah, absolutely did. Thank you so much for helping me. But, you know, having special people in your lives when you grow up, and I always say this to everybody I know, that, you know, grab the people around you who influence your life, not compliment, but influence. You know what I mean? The compliments are different. When they influence your life, they give meaning and value. They compliment your life like Nate compliments Steve on a show, right? And vice versa, right? It's a good camaraderie.
Sometimes.
I'm like the comedy sidekick.
Nate,
Not that funny.
come on, man. This is why I'm here for Nate, right? So, and that's what I mean about that. You know, so as you grow up and you get into this industry, you know, and especially restaurants, it's such a transit industry. And everybody comes in and make quick money, bounce out.
Sure.
And those who stick into it, you know, it's a serious dysfunction. Whoever wants to do that full time, because you have to be a little bit dysfunctional to do that job.
Yeah,
you really do. And I'm dysfunctional. I'll be first to admit it. But
not only with like the hand to hand with the customers, obviously, but also the dynamics of front house, back house. Everyone compliment each other. I mean, it's like
it's got to flow.
It's got to flow.
You have to literally work with all sorts of, and I say this diversity. I say this with, you know, personalities. I say this with, you know, all aspects involved.
Right.
You have to be someone to contribute to that chain, because if not, you're going to stick out like a turd in a punch bowl, man. It's going to be terrible. Right.
Sounds terrible.
So as you're doing those things, and I grew into this, you know, like this camaraderie, you know, and felt this like away from home type love with a lot of people that I worked with. And, you know, as I progressed and people were patient with me to be able to teach me and, you know, to go through those types of things. And I always start off with a restaurant because anybody who knows me, I love cooking. Right. So
you're very good at it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. It's very nice. But getting into restaurants, man, and opening a restaurant from the ground up is nightmarish. It is any type of construction, any type of thing that you're going to do with a restaurant is nightmarish, man. And dealing with the general public on top of that, fuck.
The worst.
Right? That's why a lot of alcoholics and divorces happen in restaurants. No bullshit, but that's a big reason. So learning that and opening restaurants, I opened 18 restaurants across the United States, owned 4. And a beach bar and other things of that nature in the long run, right? We took the company public, and I was a part of that, you know, which was a huge thing for me as being so young, you know, and I worked my ass off forever. I really did. I mean, I had a house in the Keys. I had a house in St. Louis. You know, I had other places that, you know, I called home too, but knowing that was something that you brought up and you watched that bell get rung. It was a true moment, you know. It was something that, you know that you put in a lot of blood, sweat, and tears.
A lot of pride there, right?
Yeah, it was huge pride, you know. So growing up and getting out of that business, you know, my wife and I, Tracy, she's watching now, right?
I don't know, maybe.
Yeah, she's watching. So
She's your screen.
She was in the restaurant business as well. She was a managing partner for a California Pizza Kitchen. She and I met. I'm not going to go into that because it's very embarrassing for her.
Still is.
You remember that story? That's a good
I
story.
just mean now being married to you.
Anyway, so no
disagreement there.
She and I have been married 20 years, man. It's been amazing. But she also was in the restaurant industry. One of us had to quit. You know, truly, one of us had to quit that industry, and it was me. I was done with it anyway. I couldn't stand it anymore. I was an executive chef. I cooked for Jamie Foxx, Bob Dole. I cooked for a lot of celebrities before. You know, did a lot of good things. You know, and did a lot of Taste of Columbus, Taste of Cincy, Taste of Florida, Taste of everywhere.
Yeah.
You know, and it was a good time. You know, so it was time to go. So what did I want to do? I want to be a cop. Yeah. Everybody's looking at me going,
smart.
That's quite the change.
Stupid ass, right? No, it was something I always wanted to do as a kid.
How old were you?
38.
So there's a show on TV that's kind of like that.
The Rookie?
The Rookie, yeah, with Nathan Fillion.
Yeah, he's whatever.
All right.
So anyway, you know, I have this huge tattoo right here, right? So it was a big thing. I'm getting this done, and my wife looks at me and she goes, "Hey, dumbass, did you want to be a cop?" I'm like, "Yeah." She's like, "You're not going to be a cop with that." I'm like, "Well, you know what? You're right. Probably it's a pipe dream anyway, right?" So here the guy is, gives me a tattoo. I pop out. 3 months later, I'm a cop.
And where were you at this point?
Which what?
Like, where were you living? Where were you a
In
police
Columbus.
officer?
Yeah,
So,
in Columbus area, right?
in this area. No, I was at Mount Gilead. No, forgive me. I started off with Ohio Health.
Mm-hmm.
And I was there. And they said if they knew that I had a tattoo, they wouldn't have hired me.
Long sleeves all day.
All day.
Yep. Even in the summer.
So I had to wear a sock, like I guess a LeBron sock. Before they were even popular, right? I'm sporting.
You made it popular.
I
think,
did.
is what
I think
heard.
so. You know, LeBron was in it. LeBron showed up one time at Ohio Health.
It didn't happen.
No, it didn't happen. But
But you can imagine if it did.
why do you fucking burst my bubble, bro? No,
There
but-
LeBron and I were
no.
talking about this thing.
Obviously, they're going to make me, you know, cover the thing of their, you know, there's a lot of departments out there that are still respective, you know, that I went through and passed a lot of good tests, you know, they had good scores, things of that nature that I didn't get the job for. You know what? I still respect that. You know, if that's how they feel about it, okay. You know, I moved on, had a great career, you know, went through Pelk, did a lot of great things. Was at the airport briefly. It was a good time, great people there. Met a lot of great people, still have a lot of influences that, you know, that I still talk to for guidance from that thing. You know, one of them was Kenny Underwood. He's a captain at Mount Gilead Police Department. He and Brian Zerman are getting ready to retire at the same time in February, FYI. If anybody knows Mount Gilead or hears about Mount Gilead or talks to Mount Gilead people or whatever the case is, those two guys are golden people, man. I tell you what. Dustin Gifford, another guy who trained me, George Hinkle, quite a few guys. I mean, there's that department is in Morrow County, and it's a very small village.
This is in Ohio.
This is in Ohio.
Yeah.
It's a very small department, and it's in Morrow County again, like I just said. But the Morrow County Sheriff's Office works very well with us. You know, it was great times, man. And I learned so much about people. And I thought I knew a lot coming from the restaurant industry because it was kind of a good transition, right?
Yeah.
You're working with the general public. You know how to talk to people. You're getting involved with people. You're doing what you got to do.
You know how to communicate.
Correct. Communication.
Yeah.
That's a big point. You know, that was a
point.
great.
It's
point.
relevant right now with the police department.
Absolutely.
Obviously. That's very relevant going on.
You know what? Being people, you know, a lot of guys put that badge on, they get green and they're like, oh, I can't wait to arrest somebody, you know, and that's, you know, it happens, you know, and anything you get to be in a power position, you get to be a manager for your first time in any career, you get whatever the case is, you know, you want to be that authoritative figure, right? You know, I always wanted to make sure when I put that uniform on, I wanted a kid to run up to me. I wanted not only a kid to run up to me and ask for help, I wanted adults to run to me and ask for help when they want. When I'm driving down the street, they give me a wave. Hey, Sonny, what's happening? Come in for coffee or you know, grab a tea. I'm a tea drinker. So grab a tea, you know, wherever the case is with me. Let's talk some business. You know, let me tell you what's going on in the village here.
Yeah.
You know, and I've had that, you know, I've had career criminals come to me on the street. Hey, come here, Conger. I got something to talk to you about, you know, and it's because a criminal is a criminal, right? But they still breathe.
Still
right?
people.
They're still people.
Yeah.
you treat them with a little bit of respect, which they deserve, because no matter what, when you go out there and you're interacting with somebody as a police officer, it's an even keel. It's never that type of.
It should be.
And it was.
Yeah.
So that type of keel, I'm not talking about in general, guys. I'm talking about just my interactions here.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I know there's a lot of politics involved with that right now. And a lot of politics in our world with that right now. And 10 years ago, law enforcement was different than it is today. And it needs to be different.
Mm-hmm.
It should be different. And it should be a difference to both sides, right? And that's why I always like to tell everybody I got in contact with, and hey, I'm not going to arrest you in front of your kids. You want to walk outside real quick? I know you got a warrant. Let's walk outside. I don't want your kids to see this stuff, or whatever kids. That type of respect that, you get those types of things from people is always amazing. It goes a long way. It truly does. They remember that moment, that somebody wasn't a true a-hole to them or whatever the case is, right? And there's a lot of, I'm not going to say I never wind tested marijuana before, but because obviously that'd be incriminating. I never did that. But,
you're not a cop right now.
I'm not, it doesn't matter.
Fair.
So those types of things, right? So being a cop was great. I got some truly horrible knees. And so they're like, let's make sure we're not hurting you anymore type thing. So I did retire from the police department, my own retirement. So it was good.
10 years?
I spent 10.
Yeah.
10 total. It was, I don't regret a minute of it. I miss it every day. I carry a lot of those characteristics still with me today when I interact with people.
Absolutely.
I became a federal background investigator on a contract. So I work for General Dynamics now, which was CSRA. I went out and I was a background investigator. So any type of clearance levels, things of that nature, we would go and do an initial interview with those individuals, which I learned a lot. It was amazing. And then I learned that I could make more money as a 1099. Right. So do this as a contract. Mm-hmm. So I was like, whew, yeah. My wife's like, go for it, baby. I love you. Give me some money. So I'm like, yeah.
Not in that order.
Give me some money. Go.
I love you. Go for it. So it was in there. It's hazy.
It was weird. I got, too much whiskey. So doing that, I popped it out going for a month. I got on with three different contracts. Right. So I'm like, shit, this is gonna be great. I'm rolling. Shut down.
Yep.
That's when the shutdown happened. As a 1099, we didn't get any type of kickbacks or anything of that nature, So
not part of the paperwork.
My brother was looking at it. He's like, yeah. It's not part of the hustle. Is that exactly the correct term, sir? I love it. You should have wrote that for me. I would have started with it. So, as I sat there and stared at my wife's face, I'm like, shit. And she's like, yeah. Shit, we're living in New Albany at the time, in our condo. And I'm like, what am I going to do now? And it just didn't work. It's just, I sat there and struggled to find employment forever. I have a clearance. I still have a clearance level. It's this changes thing that Steve's, talking about our topic tonight, rolling with the punches, man. I tell you what, I've been knocked down, kicked, rolled over, backed up, you name it. It's happened. But the only thing that keeps people together, right, is people. So you can have any type of shit happen to you as long as you got somebody in your life like Tracy. She's helped.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much she's helped, but I'm going to go and get my ass kicked right now. But she's helped tremendously.
I'll answer a lot.
She's amazing.
To Tracy and the rest of the world.
And again, that's a strong marriage for me. We didn't have a great marriage at first, but solid now, and that's all that matters to me. But moving back to going from that 1099 position, I'm like, man, I'm ready. I finally am my own boss type thing, right?
Right.
Which I always wanted to be again. I always wanted to be, in charge of a business, and it's my own business, right? And I'm better that way than anything else because I get my ass up in the morning, and I get to work, right? So when it didn't happen, I felt, deflated. I was like, fuck, man, this is terrible. I have nothing left, right? What am I going to do in my life? I'm past, being a cop, I'm getting ready to turn 50, and all this shit's going on. I'm like, God, what do I do? So I got a First Coast Security called me up and said, hey, you got a clearance? We're going to start a government data center type position. And what do you know about data centers? I go, everything. I don't know shit. But I'm
Good
like,
answer, though. That's a very good answer. That's
everything. Can you get us cleared people? I'm like,
It's
yeah.
a good job interview.
I know people across the world from clearances. I'm like, no problem. So we get this thing, and I'm not going to tell you the company because I'm still underneath an NDA. So, but if you ever got a package at the door,
Stop. It's a big company.
it might have been that.
They're doing well.
They're doing well. So again, I mean, the company that we worked for the contract, hands down, was amazing. Great people. I still talk to them. They're great people, right? So the contract gets cut. LCK contract gets cut. It was the name of the contract, right? Right before the initials parts, because a piece of paper did not get signed. No bullshit. Piece of paper didn't get signed. It's gone. So I'm like, son of a bitch. So I was fortunate enough to have my manager give me a job as an account manager for the company over security. So I had a little over 150 employees, and it was a very big project. So we did that for a while. I got out of that right now. I'm getting ready to, what am I doing? I forgot.
Day trading?
I'm day trading. That's correct.
And a podcast circuit.
Yeah.
Starting now. Sonny Conger, if anyone has a podcast out there that wants to hear this story on their
Comedic
podcast,
review.
go ahead and contact the Bourbon BS podcast. I'll get you hooked up with Sonny Conger. Guest speaking.
Motivational speaking.
Not
You're
yet.
supposed to be the comedy on this one. You missed it. You missed that boat. So yeah, that's what I'm doing now. I'm day trading. I'm learning a lot. I'm putting my degrees, master's degree, and all the other stuff to work. Man, I'm trying to really learn, and it's super exciting for me right now because I do feel like I'm finally back in control of something again. Doing my own thing, and my wife's super excited about it. Steve and I we talk about stock, in the morning time on his walk, and
I just need more money.
True story.
Yeah. So I do want to dive in. So you have this, in my opinion, a very diverse and impressive background of just multiple facet background. I mean, you have the restaurant part of it. We didn't even get into your personal life, and we don't have to like early on, but that normally comes out after a few more whiskeys. But because it actually, I think it's relevant to everything, as far as that goes. But I think it's something to go from the restaurant industry and starting at the bottom, and then all of a sudden you're in the kitchen and you're a chef, and then you're working on opening the business aspect of it. So you have all this all encompassing view of that industry, and then when you leave that for, if you will, personal reasons, as far as you say in your words, if maybe paraphrasing, but one of you, between you and Tracy, your wife,
Sure,
had to step out of it because it's tough. It's a tough industry.
It's toxic.
I didn't want to use the word, but I agree completely based on my personal experience. It can be a toxic industry. And then you move on to law enforcement. And then after that, you kind of build off of that. And all of a sudden you're kind of getting into still kind of law enforcement, but in a very specialized way.
Sure.
With rolling with the changes and especially towards this last transition, but throughout all that stuff and going back to that, I mean, obviously you're 50 now. So in this period of time that you kind of brought us up to speed the last 30 years, you had, when we're going back to that frequency, I wouldn't say more than most, but more dramatic changes, right? So you had more dramatic changes industry-wise.
Industry-wise, yes.
Yeah. But you carried it on there. But if you can walk us through like those periods of time. So let's start with the most recent, as far as going from having that 1099 business of your own to when that went away. How does one actually, anyone listening out there, if that were to happen to them, what is the pathway of what you went through and how you actually rolled with that change? Because it's not easy. Because it always, in my opinion, a lot of the times, if it's not something that you are choosing, even if you are choosing it, it's difficult. If it wasn't like a personal choice, like the personal choice to go from working for someone to your own 1099 business, if you will, as you described it.
Sure.
That's tough in itself, but you have action on that. You have control in a sense over that. You have the direction under your thumb. when it goes the other way, when you said that obviously when the shutdown and everything else happened, that's a different type of change. And you say rolling with punches, and I that's a great saying for it, but rolling with that change, what's the difference? Like how does one go through that? Like, I mean, because emotionally you get, like you said, like, what am I doing with myself? It fucks you up.
Beyond fucks you up. I mean, that's the point of the matter. I mean, it's, you know, you're sitting there, you know, any man out there wants to provide for his wife, right? So, you know, my dad growing up, you know, he's always that guy. He was a brewmaster for Anheuser-Busch for 42 years in St. Louis. You know, the guy was there and he was 7 day a week working, right? Overtime, get this, get that, right?
Yeah.
So when you show up and your dad's looking at you, and God bless him right now, he's passed, but he always looked at how, you know, how's your beautiful bride doing? He's always talking about your wife, right? He's always talking about that significant other type thing. And that's always stuck right here in my head, you know? And he always took care of his family very well. When a guy can't feel like he's taking care of something, you know, and you wake up in the morning and
that feeling
and
sucks.
you're watching your wife go to work, you know, exactly,
Yep.
you know, and you're like, fuck, I'm that guy, you know, and even though you're not, you are.
But I like the point that your dad instilled in you, right? Because I think a lot of times when it comes to the situation at hand that you're talking about, what do? You focus on yourself. You worry about, like, I'm not.
Well, you
doing
self-analyze.
This,
I mean,
exactly.
I don't want to say you focus on yourself.
Well, what I'm saying is,
I mean, you're going to
change that
overanalyze
perspective.
Yeah, you're going to overanalyze everything you're doing, right?
Yeah.
So you're going to sit there and you're like, okay, what could I have done different, right? And I do that regularly every day. You know, what could I have done different? You know, am I a better friend? Am I a better husband? Am I a better father? Am I a better grandfather, for Christ's sake? You know, anybody who's wanting to do better or be better always has to look inward out, right? And I'm a big proponent of that. So with change, I mean, what is that saying? That's the only thing in life that's inevitable is change.
That's the only thing that's constant. Is change.
Is inevitable.
Death, taxes, and a woman's got a mind to change.
Oh, fuck.
No
arguments there.
I'm gonna need that.
Keep passing the bottle.
Tracy, you're gonna have to Uber me or something, baby. I don't know what the fuck's gonna happen tonight, but it's gonna get weird. But so
you'll be on my couch.
Oh,
that's why I said keep passing it this way.
You can say please. I'm just kidding. It's your house. So there's a few things like Steve was talking, you know, and I appreciate that question, but there wasn't really one thing for me that made things come to pass to where I had to wake up and go, I need to change something, right? Unfortunately, there are life changes that I just got rolled with.
Yeah.
You know, and trust me.
Hand was dealt.
Yeah, I'd still be doing a 1099 right now if everything was rolling.
The way I think about it is change versus circumstance and change versus choice.
Yeah. You got to become diverse, right? In this world right now, everything is diverse.
Yeah.
You have to think differently. You know, my wife and I had a fantastic conversation. I think I even told you about that last week. You know, we were sitting there, you know, and she and I were talking about things, you know, and I'm like, man, I go right now. I said, I got to find employment. I got to do this, got to do that. Got to have income, got to have income, got to have income. You know, we were living a very comfortable life.
Right.
And then it stops. What do you do? Right. You're like, oh shit, I can't go out and buy my wife this. I can't do this. I can't do that. I can't take her out to, you know, a nice steak dinner or whatever the case you're going to do.
It goes from optional to necessity.
It goes from optional to necessity to shit. What else do I have? Where's your backup plan on that necessity?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It goes to this chain reaction, and it's not necessarily a negative for me because I kind of been through it. My wife's kind of used to it, which unfortunately that is the absolute truth to it. But it's almost this time due to not only our relationship being stronger, but we're ready for this change. We're looking forward to this change. We're like, yeah, whatever we're going to do is going to be me doing it.
What's your guys' saying? You're going to do a license plate on your new truck. What's the motto there?
Oh, OFG GTC.
What does that mean?
0 fucks given, go Team Conger. That's right, baby.
They told me that, and I absolutely loved it because, you know, and not to dive into that side of it, but I mean, a 20-year marriage, I mean, there's rolling with the changes there, right?
Oh, man.
And you don't have to dive into that.
No, we can. I mean,
I'm just saying, like,
my wife,
I've known you long enough that
amazing.
I know that you guys have, just like any other relationship, you've been through the ups and downs and everything like that. And since I've known you, and I've gotten to know you better and better over the years, obviously, So if you were to meet Sonny and Tracy right now, and they were to give you a little bit of background, obviously, you know, any relationship goes through their ups and downs, right?
Sure.
But seeing you guys now and hearing that motto, if you will, for the marriage, it's very accurate. So to anyone would be like,
Thank
you guys had issues?
Yeah.
You guys seem awesome.
Trust me, she doesn't like me.
No, not many people do. Loves you though. That's actually most people in his life. Actually, they don't like him very much, but goddamn, they love him. Better or worse, I can speak from
I was
experience.
about to say, you're in that boat, huh, Steve?
Man.
I'm in that camp.
Okay. Well, this was the last time Sonny's on this fucking show. No, I'm just kidding.
We're gonna start your own podcast.
No, but again, I mean, it's as Steve said, you know, for me, I mean, if would I have survived without my wife? Absolutely. You know, and she and I have another saying, you know, we don't need each other in our lives. We want each other in our lives.
Yeah.
You know, and it's and that's the truth. My wife doesn't need me to survive by any means. She's way smarter than I am. She's nicer than I am, and she most definitely keeps a job longer than I do. So it's you didn't have to agree with that.
I was actually just
no, that was over him fucking head. We get that, bro. No, but it's the truth of the matter. I mean, did she carry a family for a while? Yes, she did. You know, but did I carry a family at one point in time? Absolutely did. You know, I was married before. Yeah, ups and downs, bro. You got it. You know, it's a roller coaster ride. But the best part of it is, you know, is that when you're coming up from that crescendo, you know, and you're seeing that, oh man, this is going to be awesome, or it's going to be scary as fuck, right? So right now we're going both. It's literally for us coming down that hill on that roller coaster going,
oh yeah,
this is either going to be really awesome or scary as fuck. And it's both. And we're so excited about it.
you can't see that next turn, can you?
No, I can't.
It's a good roller coaster.
I love it. I mean,
It's a hell of a rush.
that's what I love about it, you know, but
yeah,
that's right. It's not fun if it's not scary, right? 100%.
yeah.
And I like that, you know.
Brian, we need to get you on the podcast here in
we
February.
do.
man.
We do.
We're talking before you leave. We're going to get you on the podcast. I need to hear this story.
So again, I mean, there's probably everybody out there who's watching us and listening right now is just has the same story. You know, there's always somebody in their life that gave them something, a little bit of that push, a little bit of that, hey, I got you, you know,
Yeah.
type thing. You know what I mean?
Support.
Man, this is beyond support. I can honestly say that this support's different, right?
What would you call
support me, I support you.
Well, yeah.
You know, and anyway, I support you.
And then there's Nate. Nate supports me. I support Nate. How about that? We know each other better.
Right. So
Okay, there you go.
you're always going to have that family member, friend,
Right.
whatever, right? So I have a lot of friends, you know, like I said before, my friends are my family. But having that little bit extra behind you, who, you know, you've been there for 20 years, been through thick and thin, looked at you in the eyes, you know, can look at you and say, yeah, you're being great, or you're being a complete fucking idiot, you know, and then you got to look at that woman and go, fuck, you're right. You know, and
Yeah.
you hate doing that, but you know, that's the mirror you're looking in, literally, as the significant other that you have, or that great person that's really carrying you through a lot of the shit that happens.
So I will say this at this point, you know, when you're talking about that, for those that that aren't in a 20-year marriage,
Fuck, you mean a 2-year?
I will say that, you know, it is sometimes the friends around you, it's family around you.
Mhm.
Sometimes the same as Sonny said, that, you know, like sometimes, you know, you look at, and I'm similar to Sonny in that. That's one of the reasons that he and I have gotten along so well, is that we treat people in our life, well, when we deal with this, we treat people in the life, it's very much an unconditional love. It's, you know, you will always, once you open up your heart to someone or that support system,
True.
it's there. You can fuck up beyond belief, but as long as you open yourself back up and you admit that you need help,
We all fall, man.
And
Yeah.
I think
We're
sometimes
there.
when you're dealing with those changes, you know, when sometimes life knocks you down, like sometimes that's when you find out who
Who you
your
are.
your better not just who you are, but who your better friends are. Like who are the people that are
That's
actually
for sure.
It floats.
who are the people that are actually there for you? Because you might be there, you know, when someone else goes through a trying time, and then when you deal with yours, they're nowhere to be found.
That's happened many times.
Yeah,
I have those people.
yeah, we all have those people. you know, and you know, that's when you find out, like, okay, shit hit the fan for me. Like, who can I actually lean on for support? Like, this person used to be a part of my life, and now they're nowhere to be found. Like, who is actually reaching out to me? Who is helping me out? Who can I go to?
Yeah,
You want to say that in the
Shannon? Come on,
you
you've
want
been
to say
here
that in the
before.
mic,
Jeez.
Shannon? What was that,
Shannon?
Shannon?
Well, he
Great
walks
point.
up to he walks up there, or you can just start a podcast and start talking to the microphone, and someone randomly may tune in.
Bobby, come on.
Shannon, go ahead.
I was just saying that most of the time, some of those friends just want to be on the fun bus with you.
Yeah.
When
Yeah,
that
you're
shit
right.
hits the wall and you got to get out and change a tire, they're nowhere to be.
Yeah.
They want to sit on the bus.
They've jumped off the roller coaster.
And there are different type of friends in your life, right? I mean, there's people that you can rely on when this is happening, obviously, and if if you're fortunate enough to have say with Sonny, like have a 20-year marriage that you've already gone through your ups and downs, and when that was rocky at times, just like any relationship is,
Oh yeah.
you leaned on other people. But you have to have some sort of a support system, and I think that's part of this. Going back to the initial part of this, where when changes happen, or that temper tantrum, as I brought up at the beginning of this, it's the frequency, it's the duration, and the intensity that I think that it's sometimes you have to realize that if this is happening a lot, it might be you.
Yeah.
Right. If the intensity is there, sometimes that's out of your control.
Sure.
But you might have, if you have that support system and they're looking at it, you're like, look, it's you're focused on what's happening right now. Like it doesn't have to be that intense, but there's a level of respect there. So when you're going through those job changes or the relationship changes, health issues we haven't really talked about.
We're not going to.
You know, you have that aspect of it, but again, it's who is there. That's not fun, as Shannon said. Like it's not always fun. So you have your guys that you can, guys and girls, or your people that you can go have a good time with, and you can, everything's good. Hey, this next weekend we're gonna do this. We're gonna get together and drink and all that stuff. And it's like, hey, what are we doing this next weekend? And you're like, yeah, nothing, man. This happened. And some friends will be like, all right, well, let me know what's going on next weekend. And there's other friends or people in your life, your wife, Sonny, or people's significant others, their family, parents, siblings, some coworkers, that you can actually, you say that and they're like, all right, so we're not doing that. Like, so what are we doing? You want me to come over? You want me to cook you dinner? What are we doing?
Yeah.
That's a different level. That's not the fun bus anymore, but those people are still on the bus, which I think is very important.
It's huge. I mean, honestly, that's probably one of the most honest statements ever, because it's with anything with business or personal life or whatever, right? The only success you're going to have is surrounding yourself with great people, right? And that statement is so hard to see through, because a lot of the people that you're getting involved with, and you think might be coming up to be great friends or whatever the case is, maybe shit disappointment. Shannon?
No, that's Brian.
Brian,
That's
sorry.
not Shannon.
Sorry, same shit.
I can't see shit.
It's a little smoky in here, but keeping the heat in, all right?
Just like on that topic, what I've come to learn about myself personally is like the older I get and the more mature I become as a human being and the more comfortable in my skin I get, the less I'm able to deal with like surface level relationships. You know what I mean?
think
I hear
that's an
I
attrition
hear
thing.
that.
Yeah,
Feel me?
absolutely.
I hear that.
And do you think, keep the mic real quick, do you think that is because you have been burned? Let me ask, burned by more, or been honored to have more real relationships?
I think it's all of that, but I've actually learned more by the people I've burned than the people who have burned me.
So you're saying on your side,
Oh, for sure.
you've burned people.
Yeah, man.
You've
you
been
learn,
that surface
you learn
level.
a lot when you're sitting in a room by yourself because you've done so much shit to people that like
Wow.
you don't have anybody but
Wow.
you.
That's
You know what
powerful.
I mean? Yeah.
Now we definitely got to get him on the
Yeah.
podcast. And
Brian,
here's
man,
more
I
of
already
that
said
Jesus.
that.
I know that's I'm
It's the second time
reiterating.
in the garage.
How am I going to follow that?
All right, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. No,
That's awesome.
no, but that is, I mean, so that's part of it, right? So what Brian just introduced is, so I was going to say something before he said that, but I think it's relative to this. You have to be aware of the people that are there for you, right? You have to respect that, because there are these situations that happen, and I can speak from my experience, but for many of you out there, the same thing. when you've gone through that, what did you say? Change from circumstance?
There's change by circumstance and change by choice.
So,
yeah.
and it goes with both of those when you're bouncing it off there. Like I remember, like, with my dad, it was like, I went through this job transition in the same company, but it's like they promoted me and then this other person was promoted to a different position and then they switched it back. And I'm like, you know what? I just fixed this position and I'm done with this. Now they're going to put me back in this position. And that was not really out of my control, or it was out of my control. And my dad's, and I was like, I think I'm just going to like quit and
be done.
Do something.
Just
something
be done.
else. And he said, yeah, what are you going to do next week? And I'm like, I don't know. He's like,
terrible choice.
yeah.
Yeah.
There's that dad love, right?
Didn't think that one through, did you?
Yeah. And he just rattled that off. I'm like, God damn it.
That's touching on that. That's what Tracy and I had. My wife Tracy, who didn't know, her name's Tracy. But we talked about things, right? And she sat there and this was her comment to me. She's like, you can't work for anybody anymore. I just kind of looked at her and she's like, what do you want to do? I'm like, you're right. We've always talked about us doing our own things, right? And again, she's smarter than I am and she's better than I am in business. I'm good at business. She's amazing. So she sat there and looked at me and she said, you can't work for anybody anymore. I'm not jaded, but I just, when you sit across from a table and you have more life experience and you actually have more business experience than your boss, and you're trying to help a boss out, and that boss gets, oh shit.
Yeah.
He knows more than I do, right? Or she, whichever the case is, right? Being neutral here. So it's never good.
Right.
From that point on, and I've witnessed this wholeheartedly, right? That point on, you're fucked. And anybody out there who knows this, right? What I'm talking about, you can't deny that shit. So as soon as that boss knows you know more than you do, your glass ceiling smacked you right in that forehead in that chair. Right? And it's done.
No, you're right.
And you're done. Right? Even though you're giving that person as much as you can to make that person successful, so you can be easier to deal with, and then your job is going to be easier to deal with, right? And it's all encompassing.
In that scenario, I mean, there are bosses, people above you that will appreciate it.
Sure.
Excuse me, but they will also tell you that because it's just like any other relationship. It's going to be a give and take, and sometimes there are people, the generals, that really lean on the soldiers or who have, that then you in the lower position, if you will, you're fine with it because you're part of a team.
That's it. It's humming, right? And when everything hums, you're not going to worry about driving to work going, shit, I don't want to go there.
As long as you're appreciated.
You're driving to work going, I can handle that. It's all good today.
Yeah.
Right. And it's a difference in the mindset and a different in your work performance.
Yeah.
It's a difference in your actual emotional state when you show up into those types of environments.
And what I was going to say about what Brian was saying is that, when he brought up that point of the fact that he has burned more people, the lessons, what I was trying to say is like when you have the stuff happening to you, and there's always this person or these people that are there for you during those times over the years, lifelong friends, family, whatever.
Sure.
Strangers.
Yeah.
And sometimes it could be different people that are actually the same role. When Brian said that on the mic about the fact that he's burned more people sometimes in his life, and that was not what I was expecting when he brought up that topic, if you will, or that side of this topic. But do you learn from that? Do you try to be the person that was there for you for other people? Is that the growth there? So rolling with the changes, I think it brings into this topic a little bit more of sometimes it's not your changes. And I think that's where Brian might have been going with this intentionally or not intentionally. He says no. He was just talking. But what I got from it, and I think that's what's so great about this podcast, is that the conversation just flows that way, is that I learned from that, and I take it from that, is that you can learn to be that person for other people from your own mistakes, and then also take that. Sonny says it a lot already in this part too, is the people that not are there for you, right, or support you. You said influence you.
Influence.
You said value. Influence a lot.
Volume.
And I think that's what I got from that, Brian, is that when you are learning that you were the person that did more at times in your life as far as burning or not being there for people, you appreciate a little bit more of the people that are there for you. And then all of a sudden, if you start living your life a little bit more where you're that person for other people, you got to give back, he says.
So when I was a chef, right, my office had a big sign, actually two, forgive me. It said, "Business is easy, people fuck it up," right? And the other one said, "If you're not in the business of people, you're in the wrong business," right? So those two parts right there were very, very close to each other in the same statement.
Yeah.
That, they had different meanings, right? So I always had sous chefs, and these guys were better than me. I can tell you that right now. And I know that 3 that I know of right now still, and I actually met one down when I was going through my training for background investigations for federal, getting my badge and getting all my credentials and all that stuff. I was in Georgetown, and she had a restaurant, and she heard that for some reason, found out that I was there, and she said, "You need to come here right now." And I showed up, right? And I was so excited. I was sitting there, I was looking around. I was like, "Damn, this is yours?" She's like, "Yeah." She goes, "I'm like, I'm doing my thing and blah, blah, blah." And she goes, "And then this was reason because I worked for you."
Yeah.
I looked at her and I go, "What?" I was like, but the big thing is that, I love giving my sous chefs the end of the day, right? The end of the week. It was always Sunday. We walk into the cooler, we yank everything on a big table. We're all sitting around, and I'm like, "All right, great, guys. So next week, you got the menu for Monday and Tuesday. You got Wednesday, Thursday. You got Friday, Saturday, and I'll take Sunday." "What do you mean?" "Anything that's on this table right now is all your guys' things. I'm leaving, create the menus." So
that's empowering.
Every week we've had different menus.
Yeah.
Right. So we were kind of had our faves, the people come in and ask for. We always kept on hand, so if they wanted it, we have it, right? But these guys were so creative that they blew me out of the water as a chef, right? Because they were from different countries, they were different, backgrounds, different whatever. I had a Creole guy that could make Creole food like no tomorrow with a French cuisine type flair to it. And I had an actual French, guy who spoke French, so I had to learn French, right? So I had a Mexican guy who was in there Spanish. Thank God I knew Spanish, right? So I'm just like, all these flavors were put into one dish. Man, could you guys imagine this place? And it was the people that made it. They gave a shit. They're like, "Fuck, okay, the chef's giving us a day, yeah, and you're gonna go walk around. You're gonna talk to the guests. I'm your cook. You tell me how to make this shit." So I was on the line for that week, and it was cool because I enjoyed it. Right, that's where I started as a line cook. Actually, I started as a dishwasher. So if you're going from those types, you got to remember where the hell you come from for first. Second, you got to remember where you're going, and you're not going to go there without anybody with you. Right. So that type of mentality. If you're not in the business of people, you're in the wrong business, because nowadays, what's it about? It's not about the dollar. It's not about what you're driving. It's not about what you're wearing, what gender you are, whatever the case is. It's about people, right? It's driven on people.
Everyone.
Right. So if you're not aboard that right now, and it doesn't matter what culture you come back from or what era, the Archie Bunker era, whatever the fuck you're looking at, right? You gotta change that. You gotta change that point of view. You don't have to change yourself, but you got to think differently. And that's what I told my wife, that I have to think differently about what I'm doing on a professional level from here on out, because it's not working.
It's not the same.
No matter what, it's not working for me. I don't wake up feeling fulfilled, right?
Right.
I don't wake up feeling like I'm contributing. I don't wake up feeling I'm learning. I don't wake up feeling whatever. And I have to learn every day. If not, when I feel stagnant, I wake up feeling stagnant. I become stagnant. I become this, right?
Yep.
So when you feel that, it becomes emotion. Emotion becomes action. Action becomes who you are.
Say that again, a little bit closer to the mic.
All right. So emotion is, fuck, what did I just say? I'm just kidding. So
roll the tape back for anyone.
When you have emotion, right? You're waking up in the morning, that emotion is there. You're going to act on that emotion. Once that action becomes that, it becomes you. You start becoming that particular emotion. So if you're becoming stagnant, that's what you're going to wind up being.
Yeah, it takes over.
It takes over. And if you're becoming, an a-hole or whatever, you feel like an asshole, you're going to be an asshole to people, right? And if you're not feeling good about yourself, and you can't look at yourself in the mirror and going, "Hey, look, I got to think differently. Something's got to happen." Whether it be a job, whether it be anything else, we all got our demons, right? So when you wake up, put that foot on the floor and just give praise, do whatever you got to do, and then start your day with yourself, man. Because if you're not going to be good for yourself, you're not going to be shit for anybody else.
Well, I've said it before, is that one of the good exercises I think you can do when you are possibly lost in what you're talking about, right?
Yeah.
is to literally look into the mirror. That can be a reality check, I think, for a lot of people, that when you're lost in your own mind, or you're lost in this, what you're talking about, being stagnant or whatever it is, if you don't take the time to actually walk by a reflection, you don't even realize who you're becoming, right? So when you're doing this, like you lean, like Sonny, you lean on your wife sometimes, you lean on like friends and everything else.
Lean on her every day.
But at a certain point, you have to remind yourself of who you are. And so looking at the reflection, if you're feeling like shit about yourself through these changes that you're going through, whatever it might be, you have to remind yourself that you have to be your biggest supporter. And I've been told that a lot recently, right? And I think that's something that, I go through where I can tell other people that, but when it's me, I would encourage everyone to make sure that you have more reflective surfaces in your home, more mirrors. If you don't have, like, you just have that one bathroom mirror that you don't look into, that's fine. Put one by your door as you're walking out. Put one, in the hallway, wherever you need it. You have to be reminded of who you are, because sometimes you don't always, the other people that are supporting you, it's a two-way street, right? You have to actually listen to that person. You have to open yourself up to that person. But sometimes I think the biggest reminder is that you have to actually look at yourself and remind yourself from a third person point of view. Take yourself like out of body experience, that you have to be able to get that viewpoint of what they're seeing.
Sure.
Because you lose that. When you wake up in the morning, you open your eyes.
I agree.
Put your feet down on the floor. You're walking around. You're still in your head.
Yeah. But most of us sit there, and I'm not sure how you feel about it, but most of us aren't thinking about ourselves. We're thinking about somebody else or something else or what we're doing, right? Or trying to help something else or do whatever, right? There's not a whole lot of people out there who truly just go, yeah, it's me and that's it.
No, I'm not saying that's it. It's more the saying of put your mask on first before you help other people put.
That's the analogy I was thinking of.
I figured it might be. Sorry to steal it. Go ahead, Nate.
No, I mean, the whole analogy of, being in an airplane and the mask come down, what do they tell you? Put your mask on first, so that way you can help other people who are next to you that maybe can't. Because if you're not in a position to take care of you, you may not be in a position to take care of other people.
That's right.
And it works both ways. When my wife and I were engaged, she lost her job, and I had to help her deal with that transition for a while. And that was rough while we were engaged. It was right before we were married, that she was dealing with that. And like, we were both working at the same company, and they had me take the day off to take her home and deal with her.
Ouch.
And they didn't. Yeah, the side part of that is they didn't tell the rest of our team that they were giving me the day off to take care of her. So everyone thought I was fired too. She got laid off. She didn't get fired. She got laid off.
Right.
But everyone was then surprised the next day when I showed back up, because they thought I was gone. But then a few years later, the roles were reversed for us. She was working, and I had left the company that I was working for by choice to pursue a passion of mine. And then that didn't work out. I suddenly got let go, and kind of what Sonny had alluded to, my first thought when I was let go is, how am I going to take care of my family?
Right.
Because just like Sonny talked about, I learned from my dad. Growing up, my dad worked for UPS, and he was always working overtime. And there were some times he missed sporting events of mine growing up, and there were times when I was a kid, I didn't see the big picture. When I was a kid, I was like, oh, great, my dad's working again. He's not here for my basketball game or my baseball game or whatever it is. Now he's working. Yep, he was providing for a family. And it wasn't until I became adult and was in that position.
It's hard to see when you're a kid, though.
Yeah.
I mean,
it wasn't until all of a sudden I was the one providing for a family that I all of a sudden realized the hard work and sacrifice that my dad had put in.
Priorities.
Yeah, it is.
No, good point.
So when I went through that change by circumstance, where I was then let go from a position, my first thought was I got to do something to take care of the house.
Yeah.
Even though my wife was working, I got to do something to where the burden of responsibility is not all on her. And I just took the first opportunity I got to make a paycheck, even though it's not something I wanted to do. The first opportunity, I took it.
What was it?
I was working at Kroger in the produce department.
I thought you were pole dancing. My bad.
No one wants to see this on a pole.
Not with that beard.
I didn't have the beard.
No one
But
wants to see
then once I was able to have something to where I was working, then I could focus on making the change myself. Instead of just letting the change happen to me, I can actually make the change.
So was it gradual, or you just had a dive in?
What, to make the change? It was. I mean, I worked at Kroger for over a year, but the whole time I was working there, my wife was the one who was always pushing me to apply for more jobs and get interviews, and to go for something else, because she knew I was doing what I was doing for the family.
She knew you were better.
She knew I was better than what I was doing.
Yeah.
And so she was constantly pushing me to be in a better place.
That's awesome.
And eventually I got there, and then, just keep going. And then it kind of flipped back. Even though my wife did not lose a job, she was unhappy doing what she was doing.
Right.
And she was always applying for positions and getting interviews. In the last 3 years, before my wife got a new job in December, I would say in the last 3 years, she had interviewed for over 30 jobs and didn't get any of them.
Wow.
And
That'll beat someone up.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I mean, and every time we'd come home, all of a sudden she'd sit there and be like, "Yeah, just got this email. I didn't get the job." And she would break down for a little bit. And it's like, okay, what can I do? What can I do to help?
Yeah.
Just be there for them. Even though you may not be able to give them a job, you're there to encourage them.
Yeah.
You're there to be a source of strength for that person, and to hopefully eventually once a month for at least 2 years.
That's what she says. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's, if you think about it that way, I mean, that's over 20 job interviews in a 2-year period and being told no every single time.
That's horrific.
Like, that can be absolutely deflating and demoralizing for some people. Like, and there are some people that long before it ever hit that point, that they would just give up and just stick with whatever they were doing.
Yeah.
But she didn't. Like, she kept going because she wanted better. Like, she wanted to make a change.
So apparently we're all sitting around talking about how awesome our wives are. And same thing.
Me?
You and me.
Yeah. Apparently we're two peas in a pod right here, man. But
We aren't all. My ex-wife is great. Well, I have a great relationship with my ex-wife.
And that's awesome too.
Yeah, she actually has reached out to me, and we've had a great conversation about shit going on in my life, and it is. And again, it's sometimes the people, like we were talking about earlier, is that these constants in your life. If you treat and you're there for other people, they're going to be there for you.
And that's what you're hoping for. I mean, sometimes
not everyone.
He said it earlier. It's.
Well, like, I was thinking back to,
you're going to lose those people that sometimes you thought you were thinking about that was going to be there forever.
Well,
right?
I was thinking back.
Trust me, my ex-wife was not always on the fun bus because we're not married anymore. So she's on the long haul. She's on the Greyhound with me.
But I was thinking,
and it's one of those things that it's unique. But I mean, sometimes you have those people in your life that were very important to you, and they have a different role now than they did then. But they're still there because of how changes, but also how you treated each other during the changes.
You didn't completely burn the bridge.
You don't.
You still had that
That's
person.
A great statement.
You still had that person as a resource.
That right there is.
You still had that person as a resource.
That's it, man.
Well, you have each other.
Burn the bridge.
You have each other.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Even though the situation with you and your ex, you're no longer married, you're no longer living together. You're still a resource for each other
That's exactly right.
like as an emotional, you dealing with whatever you're going through. She was there, or she was going through something.
Vice versa. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's one of those things. It is. That's how it works.
Sean,
go ahead and crack that other bottle, will you?
Yeah, just kind of going off kind of what Nate was talking about and rolling with the changes. Most of you guys here know I was laid off earlier this year due to COVID. I've been in the aviation industry for almost 30 years, and was laid off and really didn't have any other way of I don't know, there wasn't much for me to choose from in terms of aviation, to work from home. And the one thing I can say, my wife, she stepped up, and she was making, she works for the state, so she has a secure job. She makes good money. She's a breadwinner, which is totally fine with that. And you guys done porn? You guys all good?
Well, Sonny's a heavy pour bartender.
Fucking shit.
Glad I didn't bring out pint glasses.
No kidding. You threw me off, Sonny.
Aviation.
Yeah.
Wife,
So
I'm
yeah.
with you.
So
I was listening.
Teresa was the breadwinner. She had no problem with that, is what you're saying.
yeah, and she was encouraging me to just do whatever we could, like just find something I would enjoy. So now I work at Amazon. I took a 60% pay cut, but we also sat down with our budget and we kind of rebudgeted things, and we're able to save probably more now than we did when I was making more money because
how freeing does that feel?
No kidding, because we took the money I was making before for granted and just kind of not really paying attention to what we were doing. And now, I'm at a job where I'm pretty much working out every day because it's very physically demanding, and I'm getting paid to do it. So I can't have a problem with that.
Right.
But it's been, now we're doing stuff to our house. We're remodeling our house. We're actually saving money now where we can actually do things that we should have been doing a long time ago.
In fact,
But
you helped me remodel his with a light.
yeah.
We call that the Eagle's Nest.
Yeah.
The Eagles Nest. We put the Eagles Nest up together. That's correct.
The
Sean.
whole neighborhood on watch right now.
Yeah.
I'm that creepy neighbor.
So yeah, I guess what I'm saying is it was a blessing in disguise that I did lose my job and was able to find a job where I can actually just work the hours I'm supposed to work and go home and not be on call 24/7, working nights. And aviation, when you do that, you don't get a time off.
What position did you have in aviation?
I was a flight dispatcher.
Oh shit.
Yeah, so I was dealing with we flew private jets. So I was dealing with pilots and customers and
Busy.
logistics and knowing the aviation, lingo.
If I'm not mistaken, that's a job that just doesn't stop.
No, it doesn't. And Steve can attest. I've been here where a pilot will call me while I'm here smoking a cigar, and I have to run to the other room and deal with an issue or whatever. So
That's right.
it's
Well,
nice.
it takes a special person to do that type of job, man, and it's good work ethic.
Yeah, and the thing is, you're talking about how you empower your employees when you were a chef. I worked for 2 companies, unfortunately, and probably 15 of those years, I dealt with a micromanaging CEO who was just questioning everything we did. And it was whether it was like an email wasn't sent quick enough,
right.
and you would get a text, why didn't you send that? That kind of stuff. And that just stressed me out to no end. And
It's unnecessary.
it affected my health, and
It affects everything. It
Yeah,
affects the workflow. Affects
it affected my family life.
Sure.
And now I come home and I'm off. There's nobody calling me or anything like that. So anyway, I don't know. I just feel blessed to have that opportunity.
Silver lining, though, right?
For sure. Oh, absolutely.
Well,
Yeah.
it caused you and your household to refocus and reprioritize things.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden you were put in a situation where suddenly you didn't have that paycheck coming in. All right, so now how do we deal with it? We have to make changes, and all of a sudden it opened your eyes to what was going on, what you guys hadn't been doing, that you should have been doing, and now like you were saying, like now you're still able to do things that you want to do. You guys are saving money, remodeling your house. You're able to do any of those things. So now, what happens when you get back to that job where you're making the kind of money that you were? Like
Sure.
with you, Sonny, you were working 1099, and then all of a sudden this shit happened, and then the contract got canceled. And
Yeah, you go from 6-figure capabilities, and everybody looks at, big thing, right? But when you you get to that point, you go backwards, and you're sitting there with that resume thing, and you're like, what was your salary then? And what is it now type thing? It's always that number, right? And obviously he's a proven fact that happiness lies in a lot of different places than a number.
Yeah.
Well, I think one of the things with when you go through changes, and I think Sean, and I've been there before because like Sonny was saying, I was a 6-figure guy at one point, and at this point,
You're still
I'm
six
not.
figures to me.
Oh, thanks, baby.
You're welcome.
But you go through these life changes, right? Most recently, it's like now I have to take care of, and we haven't really gotten into it on the podcast, but now I have to take care of everything on my own, right? There's no support system. There's no financial support system. What Sean was saying is that what I get from it, and we were talking about as you get older, you learn these lessons. Brian brought that up. One of these lessons is that you prepare, in a sense, one of the lessons you bring from a change is what you're doing right now. Because that is something that you live to your means, right? You know what I mean? You get bigger house. No, you get bigger house. You get a nicer car. You get this, like, oh, we can afford this now. We can do this and all that stuff. And then when the rug gets pulled out from underneath you, like it did with the 1099 for Sonny.
You lose sight of the ball.
Well, you're not prepared for that safety net. So now, like what Nate was saying is that for Sean is when you maybe get back to that point. If you ever do, if you're rolling with this and you're happy, like you're good. But if there's more finances, more stability there available to you, it doesn't mean like, all right, well, now we got more money. Now we can do this. Now we can do this. No, let's keep living to this percentage. So now all we have is more availability. So now we can take another vacation if we want to.
Sure.
Without actually dipping into the savings. Like this is just extra income. So it's like rolling through the changes in that regard is you take the lessons through maybe sometimes a tough situation so that the next time you're in this situation, you handle it differently in a more smart manner. That goes with job, occupation. If you have your own business, it goes with that. Personal relationships, friendships, romantic relationships. That's, I think, a key that we haven't really talked about is that rolling through change, right? Or rolling with changes it's not just the immediate. That's what's in your face. But long term, if you're looking at that, is what lessons are you taking with you so that as you're going through that change, whether you choose it or not, will you have, if something comes up that you weren't expecting, are you going to be in the same boat, or did you actually learn something from it?
Point. You and I I think we were on a walk last week or week before.
Yeah. And
you asked me a question about, what really made Tracy and I work type thing. It was change. We changed a shit ton. But when it comes to changing individuals and you're expecting something from an individual, and I say this with respects to a relationship, right? Not just an individual part. So it has to be like the ongoing relationship thing. And you asked me, what kept you guys going through that shit time, right?
Yeah.
And I think I gave you a side-ass comment, which I probably did. I said,
sounds right.
Sometimes you just give up on some things. You got to give up on some things. Some things aren't going to change, right? So with change, you got to understand, and for me anyway, and I say this just on my own personal perspective, because there's a lot of different mindsets out there and a lot of different, persons and the way they do things, but you got to look at the individual, right? Whether it be yourself or somebody in a relationship, and you got to understand that just might not be them. Right? Yeah. That may not be the change that you're looking for them to make, right? Maybe it's just, they just can't fucking do it. Right. And then maybe you just can't, it's just not in you to do those types of things. Right. It doesn't make it right, but it doesn't make it wrong.
So what do you do?
So what do you do? Right. You compromise. And then we were talking about that, what are you going to do? Well, you compromise, right? You got to make a compromise. Number one, if it's going to be a personal compromise for yourself, there has to be an end result of that compromise. It can't be just an ongoing, I'm just going to be, give up on that moment or that person or that thing that I do every day. Smoke cigars, drink too much, smoke cigarettes, right? I used to smoke cigarettes. It was my wife's wedding present for me to stop smoking cigarettes, right? It took me a little bit, but I did it, right? Am I going back to that? Never will. But I smoked a shit out of cigars and I love them. She hasn't asked me to stop that yet. Thank God. Don't stop. Don't you get an idea. All right.
Tinder Box at Easton in Columbus, Ohio.
Thank you very much.
But for supporting the habit.
So,
Hobby.
and I want to emphasize on that though, right? So if you're looking at somebody else to change something that they're doing to benefit your life that they can't possibly do, right?
Yeah.
It's just
Different dynamic.
It's just not in them to do that in their makeup, right?
Yep.
What are you going to do when you look in the mirror going, is that something that's going to fit my life or not, right?
Right.
Are you going to change your mindset then, or are you going to actually turn around and change that mindset?
Well, I mean,
You know,
yeah,
it's
the core, right?
the core, right? So if you're looking at that point, and I say this because it's a personal problem for me to be able to sit there and go, okay, yeah, I want you to change that.
Victoria Box says, depends on what you're compromising. Some things you just can't and need to stand your ground.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think when it comes to that, like,
Agreed.
I think she's talking about like some of the core values.
No, I think we all, yeah.
of like who you are. Like, you don't completely change who you are as a person in order to.
Right. So let's talk about like, let's just say, and for instance, like personal appearance or hey, look, I hate the way you come home at night and throw your clothes everywhere.
Right.
Some spouses, when they got home because you can see the trail of clothing,
Not the fun one.
not the fun one.
Like
There's not rose
socks,
petals
and then there's
following all that over
lingerie
there.
and
Into the bubble bath, 3-person bubble bath. But
it's just me falling in my
I'm
own
just
bath.
throwing 3 out there, right? So it's
Tracy, if you're listening.
I'm fucked. But anyway, it's just one of those things, right? You got to make sure whenever you're asking somebody in your life to change, is that it's capable, willing to change that, and it has to actually value your lives together if you're with that person.
Are you asking them to change because to make you better, or to actually make them better?
Both.
Yeah, that's why I'm getting like,
Because it has to have value. And I learned this the hard way.
because I think if you're asking someone to change just because it makes you better, I think that's kind of selfish.
Right. It is selfish. It is stupid selfish. And that's I don't have to say anything else because that was my point. So
That's how this works on this.
it's how it works, right? So, and I learned that the hard way. When you ask somebody to change something that, sometimes it's just not on them to do it.
Well, I'll add to that too. Is there are sometimes the changes that you're asking someone else to make is to make you more comfortable, and sometimes that person's in your life because they are different. And so when you ask them to change, you take away the dynamic that actually may have been successful.
Yes.
Because it's
Yes.
opposites attract. It's the in business, even it's like sometimes if you own the business, you have to know your shortcomings, and that's who you have to hire. Because if you're good at being the operator, and you're like, what I'm not good at is marketing and sales and getting people in the door, but when they come in the door, we're killing it because I have this on lock. But my big shortcoming is that cash register or that door. The ding on the door is not ringing enough, but when they come in, the sale's done.
Is it moving forward to the future?
So yeah, do you hire someone that's like you, and that's going to just be like, yeah, I got it. No, I already did what you wanted to do today. Or do you hire someone that's going to say, well, you did all that already. And this is the teamwork, right? This is the coexisting. You do that. I got to get more people in the door so they experience that. And I think the same thing goes with personal relationships, is that I feel this way, I do this part of it, and I offer this dynamic, but everyone has shortcomings. And so do you get someone that is, for those of you watching, put my hand over here, that is in the same boat, and then the whole other side of it is still lacking? Or do you get someone that actually brings that together?
My mom started to touch on this in her last comment, but when you're talking about opposites attract,
say Victoria, not everyone knows your mom. All right,
Victoria. Yes.
Hi, Victoria.
Hi, Ma.
Yeah. When you're talking about in business, like they're not the two people aren't complete opposites because they still need to have the same end goal in mind.
Correct.
And that is to make the business grow, or to make it the business needs to make money. It's the same thing in a relationship. You can't necessarily be in a relationship with someone who is the exact opposite from you in every single way, because then the two of you are trying to pull the wagon in different directions.
That's a good point.
Like there are things that you both do well, but you're doing them together to get the wagon to where it needs to go. Same thing, like you and Brian at the Tinder Box, you two are very, very different.
Now we're getting personal. We're talking in metaphors here.
Isn't that what
Yeah,
we do?
let's
Isn't
get
that what we
into
do on the
that.
podcast? But like,
Let's get into
Nope.
but like Brian's kind of the quiet one.
Bring up my personal relationship while you're at it.
Brian's kind of the quiet one. Like there are times where we've had people come into the store and they think you're the owner because you're out there.
Yeah.
Like you're putting stuff on social media to get customers in. You're putting your
All right.
face out there because that's what you do. You're trying to get people in the door, and you're trying to train a staff to take care of the customers. Brian's trying to just run the business and keep the business going. And you're focused on the customer side.
But in between that part, though, they complement each other.
They do.
All right, so let me get this off of personal stuff here.
No.
No, because
We're just on us personal.
Yeah, no. All right, calm down. I look at let's get it back to sports, right? So growing up as a big Bulls fan, right? You have role players. The most successful teams are role player teams. Not everyone's a star.
Yeah.
Right. So this is what we're talking about, right? So same thing. The head coach is not the one putting the ball in the end zone or throwing, like, you know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
Sonny's a big Buccaneers fan. They hired Tom Brady, and it's like, it's one of those things. It's kind of like Michael Jordan. It's like the only reason that the Bulls were successful, the only reason that the Buccaneers, in my opinion, are successful right now, it's not because they hired Tom Brady. It's because they put someone in there that can actually utilize the role players in that. The talents.
And
Everyone has their own talent, right? So the same thing goes with relationships. You have to be open to the fact that you don't have all the talent. You have to realize that you have a role, and the only reason, and that's what I think Victoria was saying, is that opposites attract, but they should complement each other's weaknesses to make both stronger. But there is an understanding there. It cannot be ever a resentment that someone in this instant gets more credit than the other.
Or dominant.
More dominant. It's like what you were saying earlier, Sonny, about the fact that, being in a role in a business, it's like if your leader has less experience or less
Knowledge,
but they actually appreciate you and reward you for it. Eric Espinosa, who does our BS Silver, he's been on the podcast before, and he is one that I love talking to him because he talks about his sales staff. And he will talk about this, is that one of the shortcomings of a lot of businesses is that, and I've been a part of some of those businesses, not currently, but in the past, is that you can never overpay your salesperson. If you have a commission structure, if you have a something that is rewarding them for doing good work, and then you look at the budget, and you're like, I'm paying them too much. I wasn't prepared to pay a salesperson that much. But in your P&L statement, profit and loss, for people that don't know that,
bottom line,
the bottom line is stays the same. Don't get greedy. You factor that in, is that this person brings value up until this point. If they bring you more business, you are both succeeding. Pay them more. In a personal relationship, if this person is bringing more value at that time, when you're talking about what you're talking about, Sonny, about the fact that, when you hit that hurdle or whatever, and then that person in this relationship, Tracy, brought more value at that point.
Still does.
Agreed. Side note. But my point is that it's all about that end game. It's all about that. What is the ultimate goal? If you're hitting that ultimate goal, it doesn't matter who's making what. It doesn't matter who's benefiting more at that moment, as long as there is a mutual respect to that. And I think that's the big part of it. Whether you're opposites, whether you work together well, whatever. But it's that mutual respect that you have to get to that point that you realize that you accept that you are in it as a team.
So you're saying a change should complement any type you're changing?
I'm saying a change will get to the point where you as a team, whether it's you and another person, or a physical team, there's multiple people involved, is that you have the roles filled so that no matter what hurdle comes your way, whatever fucking meteor is coming towards the earth, right, is that you actually can say, all right, I can't handle that. Sonny, that's your expertise. Get after it. And then you take care of it.
You grab Bruce Willis and I go, right?
Yeah, Armageddon, man.
Well, the role that I've been in my company for the last 5 years, so I work with a lot of sales staff, and I would say in the last 5 years, the company has changed commission structures at least 3 times.
Why is that?
From what I can see is whenever they set a commission structure, the sales reps are going to be like, all right, how can I get the most money for me? And they're going to do however they can to get the biggest paycheck. Whether, okay, if I make more money bringing in new customers than I do keeping old customers, I'm going to focus on bringing in new customers. And I may not focus on the current customers as much.
Right.
And then every time they change the structure, it's like, okay, I make more money if I do this, so I'm going to focus on that. And they just keep changing it. And the sales reps are like, every single year you give us a goal that we have to hit, a sales number that we have to hit. Doesn't matter how we hit it, we have to hit that number. But you keep changing how you're paying us on that number. We're going to do whatever makes us the most amount of money that still enables us to hit our number. Like
that's goal setting. That's goal setting though.
But the company's like, yeah, we want you guys to focus on this, because we were paying you guys too much on this side and not as much on this side. So we think we'll pay less out if you guys keep doing what you're doing. But the sales reps are smart enough to know that, okay, I need to change my tactics because
I got to make more.
I still want to make more.
There's always a loophole though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, so they're still making their money. The company's making theirs as well. But, sometimes,
as long as they don't really see it, it's okay.
Like sometimes I've seen enough sales reps come and go. And a lot of times it's because of commission structures. Like they change the commission structure and like, all right, fine. I'm going to go work for another company that's going to do it differently, that I think I'll make, the same money or more money at with less work.
I think that goes with obviously business. I saw a lot of that over the years at my previous career. You change these, like either with salespeople, it's a commission percentage or whatever it might be. Like, hey, if you guys sell more of this, you'll get paid more on everything. Same, it's moving industry. So it's like you can sell all the moves you want, right? But we'll pay you more on everything if you sell boxes, pack jobs, and just additional services. It was a sliding commission scale, right? So it was like you get this, you get 2.5%, or you get 3, or you get 3.5. And there were some salespeople that would just be like, I'm just going to sell the shit out of everything, and I'm going to get 2.5. I'll make more money. There's other people that are like, I have an opportunity to make one more percent. That was a swing of like almost 20 grand a year. And at that point, I was a sales manager, and I'm like, I'm listening to your calls. You're not offering boxes. You're not offering this. If you offer this, it's that Wayne Gretzky, like you only make what was it, the shots.
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
There you go.
Yeah.
And I relate that to personal relationships as well, right? So if you just like you're skating by on the bare minimum, everything's good, all that stuff. But if you go above and beyond, I think sometimes that you can actually get greater reward from that, friendships and otherwise.
And again, you said it was earlier, looking at the mirror.
Looking at the mirror.
But
what do you
want? Saying that, you're also talking about you putting in more effort, more work. You're trying to sell more. You're not relying on someone else to sell more. you're focusing on you to accomplish that goal.
Well, you're focusing on you for the positive, right? So when you're rolling with changes, I think a lot of times you focus on when things aren't going well, and now all of a sudden you're surviving. You're like, what did I do? Like, not what did I do wrong, but like, what did they do wrong? Why is, like you were talking about, like they keep changing the sales structure and all that stuff, right? So keep rolling with it. But if you're bigger picture and not just on you, if they change what you're getting paid off of, you're like, all right, cool. Like, I'm going to do this and I'm going to add on to that. I'm not just going to change my focus to this, because that is very, very short-sighted. You have to look at the bigger picture. That's when you get the promotion. That's when you get that advancement in life, in my opinion.
So with the broader view, like you just said, Steve, and I think you were talking about it earlier too, Nate. What constitutes setting aside, just actually, when is the point of, oh shit, I need to think broader? What comes to that point? Like you were talking about with your wife and you, you said your wife was always working her ass off, and had that job, whatever the case.
But still looking, right? There comes a time that when people go through their life, they don't, and it's my experience too. When I was in restaurants, man, I should have gotten into different things earlier, right? Everybody that woulda, coulda, shoulda, right? And my wife is going to smack me in the face when I get home for saying that. You've said it a lot of times.
Yeah, she hates that. She hates that.
You should probably stay here.
I know.
Tracy.
So, don't egg it on, man. She's still awake. So it's that woulda, coulda, shoulda, right?
She's a saint.
She looks at me and she always tells me every day, stop thinking about the woulda, coulda, shouldas, right? Think about what we're going to do now and what we're going to do tomorrow, and just stick to now. Figure it out. We got it.
Well, because she knows that you can't change. You can't go back. You don't have a DeLorean. You can't go back and change.
Flux capacitor.
Oh,
my bad.
You can't go back and change what you could have done or should have done or would have done, but you can learn from it. So even though you can't change it, you can still learn from it.
No, that's a great point.
No, it is. I had that on a much lesser scale.
Epiphany?
Yeah, my old roommate Connor. I've said this on the podcast before. Connor Hart, you know who he is.
Of course.
And he was speaking from experience, and then sometimes it was like, this is very, very minute. You drank too much. You said something you shouldn't have.
Shocking.
Not me.
We all do that.
We all do
Oh,
that.
you okay?
I'm good.
All right.
No, but it applies to everything, right? So you said something you shouldn't have, right? You're holding back or whatever. You said something you shouldn't have, whether it be an employer or whether it be a personal relationship where you did something you shouldn't have. And it's he had the mindset of, well, can you change that? No. So what are you going to do now? I think that's one, like, at the time when you're in the moment, you're like, fuck.
It's kind of like, it's
like, I don't know.
It's kind of like when you told your dad that you were thinking about quitting.
Yeah. Same thing.
Yeah. He's
same
like,
thing.
Okay, you can't change that. The company switched positions on you, and you had to clean up someone else's mess, and you feel underappreciated about it. Yeah. Can't change it. What are you going to do?
What are you
going to do tomorrow? What are you going to do on Monday?
All right, so this is the point where I'm going to say we go into the closing remarks. This conversation can go for hours.
It can.
With this crowd, geez. Closing remarks is where you've been a part of it, Sonny.
Sure.
Nate, do you want to start?
Sure.
Yeah, frame it.
So one of the things that popped in my head was rolling with the changes doesn't mean that you just sit idly by while change happens. Because there are some times where we see change happening around us and we're just like, all right, like I'm just going to keep doing my thing. And sometimes you have to learn from it and use it as an opportunity to better yourself. I've had some times in the last few years where I didn't feel like I was appreciated the way I thought I should be with with all the work I was doing. I didn't get the promotion or the job that I wanted, that I thought I could do well and I should have gotten. You know, someone else beat me out because they were either a better talker or there was one where I was better. I had a better understanding of the business and my job of things, and they had a little bit better understanding of management.
Mm-hmm.
And so they picked someone who had management experience over someone who actually knew the business.
Right.
And I felt slighted by that because I was like, I know the business. I can learn to be a manager. And it's kind of hard for them to be the manager if they don't, and learn the business if they don't actually make that a priority and focus on the business.
Yeah, the best salesperson doesn't always make the best sales manager.
Very, very true.
Not everybody's a leader.
Most likely.
And so there were times where
Yeah, I'm gonna throw it up on the screen. Victoria just called you out.
Yeah.
Oh wait, no,
Not that one.
doesn't show. There it is. Nobody is a better talker than Nate.
I would
Thank you,
Victoria.
disagree with that, Mom.
Slash
Thank
mom.
you.
Love that.
You just got called out by
but
your
no.
mom.
I
Your
know.
own mom. I love it.
Yeah.
I
No.
love it.
I love
How old
her.
are you?
37.
She has 37 years of experience with that.
I learned from her.
Okay. Don't turn around on mom.
But
Victoria,
no.
you're a saint.
Amazing.
But I remember there were times when things didn't go my way. I didn't get what I thought I had earned. Not that I deserved it, but I thought I had earned it. And it didn't go my way. And there was a moment in each one of those instances where my initial thought was, you know what? Screw it. I'm just going to do me. I'm just going to take care of me. I'm not going to worry about anyone else on the team. I'm just going to take care of me. But then I looked very, very shortly after that's not the best mindset for the team.
Okay.
So I work with a team of people that currently there's 9 of us on the team, about ready to be a 10th person on my team. And if all I do is focus on me, then I'm not necessarily growing.
It's powerful.
I'm not showing that I can do more.
Yeah.
But if I have the attitude that I want the team to do better, and I'm going to do what I can to make the team better or to help the team get better, that makes our team better, but it then also reflects positively on me and makes me better. I'm not just sitting by and sulking that I didn't get what I wanted and then just going back into my shell, doing my thing and closing everyone off. I'm still taking care. I'm still doing what I need to do, but I'm there for other people to help them, because then that shows that I can actually help members of a team and actually help build them up and make our team better.
Love it.
Which is what a manager or a leader should be.
So do you feel that you can have anything you want if you kind of like help enough people get what they want?
That's a good question.
It's not entirely up to me. And
Okay.
and that's
Fair. No,
that's
fair.
one of the problems I think a lot of people have is it's not always up to them. And when they don't get something that they want, like they react too negatively about it, and they don't realize it may not have been up to them. You know, in the times that I've gotten passed over for positions, I don't necessarily think that there was anything that I could have done that would have made me a better candidate. But I do know that there are things I can do to where I'm a better candidate next time.
Great. Perfect.
Love it.
Well, that's wonderful.
Sonny, how about you? Closing remarks.
Closing remarks.
On part 2.
Yeah, part 2, right?
Rolling
So,
with changes.
honestly, the only thing I really had to add to any of that's really powerful, Nate. Honestly, that was dead ass on.
Come up with your own thing now.
I'm trying, man. That was
Sonny, thanks
was
for
great.
being part of it.
I appreciate it. No, honestly, this was a great night. I really appreciate those times and sit around with you guys and honestly, sit around with the other guys I sit in the audience with and be a part of this is pretty amazing. Only thing I can actually add to this with change, and I say this, and I'm a firm believer on this, guys, is that it's inevitable. Change is inevitable.
Yep.
Especially with the world it is now. You have to change. You got to think different.
It's coming fast.
It's not fast. It's now. It's smacking you in the fucking head.
Adapt or die.
If you're not waking up in the morning and the world's not smacking you in the face, you're not fucking watching TV. You're not being a part of the world, right? Things are happening. Shit's going on.
Yeah.
You got to be a part of it. You got to be a positive part of it. And I say that meaning positive part of something. Find something in your life that's positive. If they're not positive, they don't belong. They have to have value, right? Change is bringing forth value.
Yeah.
If you're not bringing forth value to somebody in your life as a friend, a cohort, co-worker,
Mm-hmm.
a fucking acquaintance, for Christ's sake,
Spouse.
come on, man, I gotta go home.
I like the fact
So-
that you said
so
spouse.
do I.
after he said acquaintance.
Right? No, acquaintance, meaning a
Someone
friend,
I
right?
met
Somebody
20
at
years
work is
ago.
an acquaintance, right? So you may not hang out with him, you might go grab a beer with the guy ever, but you know what? You gotta have value. There has to be value. When you're adding value to something, right? You stick out. People gravitate to you. People positive gravitate to positive.
That's right.
People gravitate to negative who are negative, right? Be positive. Be valuable.
Yeah.
Be somebody in somebody's life, if not yours. Change that. Because number one, we all sat and talked about it earlier. If you're not valuable to yourself, you're not shit to someone else.
Put your mask on first, right?
That's right. Put the mask on first, right? Go down with the fucking flow station device first, right? You can't save somebody else. You can't save yourself. Right?
That's exactly right.
That's all I got.
So what I'll have to add, I mean, you guys, again, like Sonny said, Nate, you nailed it on the head, and Sonny, you added to that. I learned a saying from someone recently that I felt like I was maybe doing some of the time, but when we're talking about rolling with changes, is you do the next right thing. No matter what happens, you got to be yourself. You have to learn, and no matter what is thrown at you, whether you have control over it or not, you do the next right thing. You take the next step. You treat other people the way you want to be treated, and you treat other people the way that you want to be treated. It's important. It's something that is not done enough, because you take things personally, but when you have to take a step back and you realize the changes that you've gone through, that you're there for someone else that is going through changes. And it doesn't matter if you're mad, you're happy, doesn't matter what's going on. You need to do the next right thing.
I like how you add that word right.
Yes.
It's not just doing the next thing, it's doing the next
To
right
you, to
thing.
who you are, look in that mirror that I was talking about earlier, is that you do the next right thing. And I think that is something that by doing that, you will find yourself. It's when everyone always says, like, surround yourself with the right people. If you do the next right thing, you will find yourself surrounded by the right people.
Point.
Guys, thank you very much. Thank you, Tinder Box at Easton, Altus USA, BS Cigar Company, patreon.com/bourbonbs podcast. This was fantastic. Sonny, thank you for being here.
No, pleasure.
I hope to have
Pleasure
you
was
back.
mine, guys. Everything was a fantastic conversation.
Oh, amazing. So, guys, rolling with changes. We had a great conversation tonight. Share it, like it. Cheers. Happy Whiskey
To you
Wednesday.
guys.
Enjoy your week.
Salute.
Thank you, guys.